Football, for better or worse, can be full of cliches. The word blockbuster is thrown around a little too liberally from time to time, to the extent that maybe it loses meaning. But in case you needed a reminder, today, here at the Sydney Cricket Ground, we are here to witness a true Sunday afternoon blockbuster. Sydney and Collingwood, two prospective top four teams. They were both top four at the start of the round, but with equally impressive claims. The most stunning fact is this: Craig McRae's Magpies have won 11 straight and come from behind in the majority of cases to steal hearts and heart-stopping finishes. Today, they meet the Swans, who themselves have won 5 straight. They've kept most of their team on the park and are experiencing real upswing off the back of the continued emergence of Chad Warner, as well as the established capabilities of Luke Parker, Lance Franklin and Isaac Heaney, who, by the way, plays his 150th game today. This is Grandstand AFL. Welcome from wherever you've joined us right across this great land. My name is Brett Sprigg, and I'll call this game this afternoon, as always, alongside Daniel Garb. Hello, Garby.
Hello, Spriggy. Delighted to be alongside you for this one. I mean, we all look forward to the footy every week, regardless of what capacity you go to the game in or watch the game or listen to the game in. But this has been the kind of game that you woke up on Monday just counting down the days because you knew how big of an occasion it would be, and you've summed it up exactly right there. And speaking to people at the Swans this week, they reckon it's their biggest home and away game in 15 years, probably since those massive Eagles affairs of the mid-2000s. And there is just so much on the line, most notably second spot a week out from the finals, almost certainly for the winner.
It's extraordinary. So I'll discuss all those permutations as we go throughout this pre-game build-up, and the opening bounce here is still about 45 minutes away. Conditions, it's absolutely beautiful. There are a few clouds around, but it's a nice day for footy. No sign of rain. Track looks good. There was NRL here yesterday, but the crowd are filing in, as you say, big occasion, not only because of what this football game represents, but they're also celebrating 40 years in Sydney, the Swans, since making the move from South Melbourne. So there'll be a few things to mark that occasion. Mike Brady will perform at halftime, as well as there'll be an appearance from Josh Kennedy, of course, who announced his retirement during the week. Team news here. There is a late out for the Pies, and it is quite a significant one. Jordan De Goey out with a hip flexor. So there'd been concerns around his quad and his adductor in recent times, but hip flexor is the official word on Jordan De Goey today. So he will not be out there for the Pies. And Trent Bianco, who was their sub last week, the used sub, came on for Will Hoskin-Elliott in the third quarter. He will take Jordan De Goey's place in the team. Today's sub for the Pies is Callum Brown, while for the Swans they are unchanged, and Braden Campbell is the home side's medical sub. There was also a flu scare at the Pies during the week. A number of players missed a midweek training session. That was Wednesday, but Bo McCreary, Jamie Elliott, Will Hoskin-Elliott and Josh Carmichael all missed that session. They did train on Friday, so no real concerns for they or Jeremy Howe, who also missed a session during the week. We'll head inside both camps between now and the opening bounce in, as I say, about 45 minutes' time, and you are more than welcome to get in touch with us via the SMS 0437 774 774. In the meantime, our commentary team features firstly GWS Giants captain Alicia Eva. Nice to see you, Alicia.
Good afternoon, all. What a ripping game this is going to be. Looking forward to it.
We've been building towards this for a few weeks, haven't we? Now, just quickly, alongside you in the experts chair, Bulldogs AFLW coach, Hall of Famer Nathan Burke. Hello, Burkie.
Hello, Brett. Hello, everyone. Lovely to be here. Lovely sunny day you've turned on for me.
You've got some recent history, you and Alicia, because practice game yesterday, Giants-Bulldogs, Giants pipped you by a point, and you meet again in 2 weeks in round 1 AFLW.
Yes, so fixture planning is a feature at the AFL that make us play 2 weeks in 2 games in 2 weeks. But no, yesterday was a really good. Most importantly, it was a really high-class affair, I thought, Alicia. That there were some casual observers that came along and said, boy, what a great start this season is going to have if the team's going to play that sort of football. So I loved it.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic hit out. And I think both sides were careful not to show too many of their cards. But no, it was a really good hit out. And, yeah, we'll see you again in 2 weeks, Berkey.
What about, just want to get out of the way, what about today, though? What are you looking forward to here, this clash, the Swans and the Pies?
The Swans, for me, they've won the last 5, but 4 of them have been by 100. They've kicked over 110 points. So they're scoring extremely heavily, and it's not something we typically look at the Swans and say, hey, they're a great scoring team. We know they're a very disciplined team, that sort of thing. So what are Collingwood going to do to actually curtail that scoring and try and keep it close? Because we know if they can keep it close, there's a fair chance they're going to get there in the end. So I don't think this is going to be a shootout with both teams getting 110. So I think Pies are going to have some form of defensive mechanism. Again, interesting to see what it will be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think watching Collingwood, particularly over the last month, the word that pops out is pressure. Their implied pressure on the ball carrier. Sydney are the most efficient by foot in the competition at the moment. They like to take those short lead-up kicks. They pull the trigger on those short hit-ups. If Collingwood can apply manic pressure on the ball carrier and take away the uncontested marking game of Sydney, I think we've got a real game on our hands. That's
the exciting aspect of this, that you put all the ingredients that we've spoken about into the pot and you have such an intense affair, and the Pies are third in the comp for tackling and the Swans are second. So you've got the two best pressure teams really going at it in such a high-stakes affair. That builds up to a game that you're just salivating over.
It does, and it probably puts paid to the myth that teams are either really attacking teams or they're really defensive teams. Good teams do both really well, and I think both of these teams fit into that category.
The build-up through the week, Garby. So it's a sellout here for the first time in 6 years. So we'll keep an eye on where that figure lands, but it's obvious from just being around the place today. It's City to Surf Day in Sydney as well, which is, by the way, I didn't realise the estimation. I didn't realise how big that was in most people's estimation, the City to Surf. But massive day in Sydney and a huge occasion today for the Swans.
Yeah, I mean, it's their 40-year anniversary since the relocation from South Melbourne to Sydney as well. So that's been a big celebration for them this week. And then one of their greatest ever players, Josh Kennedy, announces his retirement on Tuesday as well. He'll be doing a lap of honour with some other players at half-time. But that's created an extra bit of magic in the air around the Sydney Swans Football Club during the week as well. And, I mean, you just listen to players speak about the man they call Joey Kennedy, and there's just so much emotion. John Longmire, who we don't see the emotional side of him, he was brought to tears when he spoke about Josh Kennedy. I mean, he's always 1 week at a time and follow the basics to the media. Seeing him cry, it just summed up what Josh Kennedy means to this football club. So that added another layer to everything as well.
I want to come back to the combo around Josh Kennedy, and we'll talk to Charlie Gardner, the Swans footy manager, very shortly as well. You can keep your text coming through 0437 774 774, and we'll also keep you across what's happening at the MCG for Richmond Hawthorn, the third term just getting underway there. The Tigers by 27 points, but we'll get to Ben Cameron keeping an eye on that shortly. Ladder positions. Now, this is the curious thing. So at the start of the round, Collingwood began the round in second. Brisbane jumped them, so back into third. And then Melbourne's win last night drops the Pies back to fourth, where the Swans originally were. They are now down to sixth, thanks to Fremantle winning the Derby last night. But essentially, 5 of those top 6 can still finish top 2. That's because, bearing in mind, Brisbane and Melbourne play each other next week. Freo can't get to there because they had that draw a couple of weeks ago, so that will probably cost them in the end. But the Swans, in many respects, are in the box seat to get that top 2 finish.
They are. They play the Saints next week down there. So the Saints aren't in great form, so you'd expect them to go in favourites into that game. And, yeah, it's just amazing that you lose three, 4 spots on the ladder and you don't even play a game. And then you might even jump up a couple of spots on the ladder. It's just an amazing season. And next week, for around 23, I can't think of a better round 23 in recent memory.
There are some games which could mean plenty, and by the time we get to this time next week, there are some which may not mean an awful lot. So that's just sort of part of the picture approaching the final round of the season. Alicia, I want to focus on the Sydney Swans for a second, and both teams are out there warming up. The Swans, I mentioned the path they're on, the emergence of those key players. Has this happened earlier than most of us have expected?
That's a really great question. I think what Sydney do really well is develop their young talent. And we see that through the VFL, formerly the NEFL, in years gone past. We've seen that through, the likes of Callum Mills, who who I guess cut his teeth down back and then goes through the midfield and can pretty much play any role out on the ground now. And I think that's what they've shown they've been able to do over the last few years, is develop their talent coming through. They're also their list is really healthy at the moment. So it's not just their seniors that are performing well. They're performing well at VFL level too, and that puts pressure. It's selection pressure is on all the 22 playing today. So I think early in the season we're talking about Isaac Heaney. He was going to have a big season in the midfield, and it started that way, and then he went up forward and he keeps kicking goals. The luxury is they don't have to throw him back in the midfield because they've got stars riddled through there already. So look, they've got plenty of depth and plenty of versatility if one player is shut down, whether that's through the midfield or forward.
Just quickly, Scott Pendlebury and Darcy Moore are warming up with headphones on. How would you have gone, Nathan Burke, at Moorabbin, warming up with headphones on back in the day? What would the reaction have been?
Not good. No.
I've never seen that before. I haven't watched the Pies warm up all too often, but that's unique.
We would have had to have the big Sony Walkman yellow thing hanging off the back of the shorts, and probably wouldn't have held up under that weight.
It is something that a lot of players do these days, and I guess with the extra noise expected today for a visiting team, that might be just all part of your, to trying to channel your focus in the lead up. Just off the SMS, 0437 774 774. Mark isn't too positive. Says, unfortunately, this game is going to be a flop now with the Goey out. Swans easy now, says Mark. Cats from Geelong don't travel up the highway for night games, says Mick Mulgrave. Not sure what that has to do with anything. So that was for the previous show. G'day, team. Grant here in Hobart, enjoying the call. I remember being 12 years old in 1982, watching Sydney play, I think, Melbourne for the first Sunday game, and Channel 7's Peter Landy getting angry at the SCG announcer, saying, gee, the bloke on the PA doesn't half love his own voice. Go Blues next week. Good on you, Grant. Yeah, memories of 40 years ago with the Swans arriving in Sydney. Quick update from the MCG. Richmond Hawthorn around the grounds there. Ben Cameron.
Yeah, thank you, Spriggy. Good to hear your voice again. I can tell you that Richmond lead by 33.6 minutes into the third term. They led by 28 at the half. Trent Cotchin has kicked the first goal of the second half. Worth mentioning as well, Tom Lynch with 4 first-half goals. So he's been in some nick in that first half. But Richmond, they lead by 33 points, 10-3-63 to 4-6-30.
On you, Ben. Back to you shortly. Brett Sprigg alongside Daniel Garb, Nathan Burke, Alicia Eva, and we'll have Glenn Lauder on the boundary for us as well. But we go inside the Swans camp for now. Their footy manager, Charlie Gardner, has been good enough to join us on Grandstand AFL. Charlie, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
As far as rounds 1 to 23 are concerned, is it a day like today? Is it as big as it gets?
Oh, look, it's a big game, no doubt about that. There's been a big build-up. Collingwood are obviously in great form, and it'll be a big challenge. We've got a big crowd in here at the SCG, which is fantastic. We've got a nice day, so, yeah, shaping up as a big game.
We've all had a turn at trying to contextualise Collingwood's run and their remarkable year so far. What do you identify in the nuts and bolts that makes them so hard to beat, particularly in those clutch moments?
Oh, look, I think their pressure's been of a really high level, and they've been able to, influence the contest across the ground and put teams under a lot of pressure. And then when they win it, they've been able to run and spread and test teams on the transition. So we'll have to be able to match their run and absorb their pressure in the contest. I think that's going to have a big bearing on the game.
Charlie, Nathan Burke here. Good luck today. When do you start talking about, this is a top 2 opportunity versus a top 6 opportunity and what's on the line? Do you actually touch on it, or you just let them go out and play the game?
Oh, look, I think everyone knows, the importance of the game. We don't touch on it expressly. I think everyone follows the footy media and the games across the weekend and know what it may mean. But in terms of our process internally, it's no different. We do our opposition analysis. We focus in on who we're coming up against each week, and we plan to win and play the best possible brand we can, and our brand that will hopefully get us the win. And if we do that, then the rest takes care of itself. The rest is noise, really. We just focus on week in, week out. It's very boring, but and John's been on the record regularly about that, but it is actually how we approach it internally. I think it's the only way to the way to approach it, frankly.
Well, you've been on a roll and you've won 5 in a row, and 4 of those you've kicked over 110 points. What's the secret to the high scoring lately? Is it just a confidence thing, or the game plan just really gelling together?
Oh, look, I think the team is building confidence. We haven't had many changes across the last month to 6 weeks, which helps with continuity. We haven't had a lot of changes at selection. The guys have been able to train and play together, which is important. And yeah, we've had an inconsistent year up until the last 6 weeks. You know, we've still got 8 players who are 22 and under in the team, and they're just learning what it takes week in, week out, and each week they're getting better. They're understanding their teammates better, and so I think that connection is just coming with experience and time on the block. Got some forwards who have hit good form. Tom Papley had a slow start to the year, but he's been fantastic since he's come back into the side. I think Will Hayward's had a great season, and then Isaac and Lance have been key targets for us. So I don't think there's any particular secret to it, but the guys are starting to build some really good connection.
G'day, Charlie. Alicia Eva up here. All the best today. Just watching your boys walk off the ground at the moment, and we can see Josh Kennedy out there. Obviously, a big announcement this week with his retirement, a champion of the club. Just wondering what his role will be for the remainder of the season.
Thanks, Alicia. He's going to be on the bench, and we'll be working with our coaches, connected up to the box and relaying messages down to the playing group. Josh has done that a fair bit this year. He missed 8 to 10 weeks with a hamstring earlier in the year, so he's pretty familiar with that role, and he's just the person he is, former club captain, the standing he has within the playing group. We think that's a really important role that he can play, both technically but also emotionally on the bench. And I think he'll continue to do that. He wants to support the team in any way he can, but he's also without any expectation, but a glimmer of hope that he could get back if we can stay in the race for long enough. He's working really hard on his rehab already. I saw him in the gym this morning. He's going to do absolutely everything possible to get back and to support the team along the way.
Charlie, Daniel Garb here. So much has been made during the week of Collingwood's momentum wave that they're riding, 11 in a row coming into this. Do you feel like there's something special brewing at Sydney in that sense as well? Do you feel like you've hit a little run now where the energy is starting to take over inside the group?
Oh, look, I think there's belief there, but I think there's always been belief. Before 6 weeks ago, we was just as confident as we are now. We won 15 games last year. We've won 14. I think that's gives us some endorsement for where we're going as a team. But the belief is certainly there. But we've got to go out and do it. So they're not taking anything for granted. Collingwood are a terrific team. They've shown that, and the top 8 is just so even at the moment. We saw last night. Any team can beat any of the other teams in the top 8 at the moment. So we just got to focus on playing well and playing our game, and not worry about anything else.
The Lance Franklin scenario probably began as a bit of a peculiarity, Charlie, that after 9 years we're now looking at one more, and wow, isn't that amazing? But clearly there's still a bit of dialogue to play out around his future beyond these next few weeks. Is any part of you concerned that it could become a bit too much of a distraction?
No, I don't think so. I think we're really comfortable with where it sits. Lance is entitled to take all the time he needs. He's got an important decision to make, and he's got our full support to sit down at the end of the year and weigh up what he'd like to do. He's got to make a decision on what's in the best interest of him and the family. We'd all love to see him play on, but I think his primary focus at the moment is playing well and helping the team, and he's committed and motivated and invested in the team like I've never seen him before, and I think he's really enjoying his footy, which is great to see.
The other one who's a free agent is Jake Lloyd. I imagine it goes without saying he's a required player for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake's a really important part of our back six. He's an on-field leader, and we're as you know, we don't talk about contracts, but we'll look after that and hopefully be in a position to announce something in the remainder of the year.
Just lastly as well, Charlie, we speak about availability being so key right across the season, particularly this time of year. Who do you have to credit for the fact that this list is so healthy at the moment?
Oh, look, we've got a terrific high performance and medical team. You know, they've done an incredible job. You need an ounce of luck in player availability, but you know, that comes off the back of hard work and planning. And we've got a terrific group that know our players really well, that have great relationships with them and understand them. So yeah, a lot of credit has to go to our medical and high performance staff for the position they've got the list in at the moment.
Appreciate your time. Best of luck today.
Thanks very much, guys.
Charlie Gardner, manager of the Sydney Swans, with us on ABC Sport. This is Grandstand AFL. And just sort of going back to Josh Kennedy quickly as well. So he retires with a staggered final year, beset by injury and stints in the VFL. And the prospect of a return, as he mentioned there, Alicia, still up in the air. But nonetheless, a legacy is probably the personification of the best inside midfielder, or the ideal inside midfielder. As of right now, he has the most contested possessions of any player ever. Patrick Dangerfield may catch him in the next sort of few weeks, but look, he'll finish just shy of 300 games. Josh Kennedy, a three-time best and fairest, three-time All-Australian and a former captain, from a guy who couldn't make it work as a third-generation Hawk. He's absolutely squeezed the most out of his career, hasn't he? He
has, and look, fingers crossed that he can get back for a fairy tale finish, who knows, but I've just loved watching Josh Kennedy play footy for the last however many years. He's actually from the same primary school as me way back when. So, yeah, it's been fascinating to watch his journey. When you talk about on-field leaders, he just exemplifies. And I think sometimes, you know, we talk about some of the great captains and some of the great captains that lead some of the biggest clubs down in Victoria. What Josh Kennedy has done, and by no means is Sydney a small club, but what he's done up here and what he's done for the game up here in Sydney has been fantastic. He's as hard as it comes, and I wish him all the very best.
And I don't know him, but he seemed like a good bloke. And I don't think you'll get anyone who says a bad word about him. And just the way that he's played the game, it hasn't been the fanfare, it hasn't been the over the top. There's been no controversy at all about him. He's a guy that you would just love to play with, and certainly as a coach, you would certainly love to throw his magnet on the board first every single week. The
other thing here is you mentioned at the press conference during the week, Garby, or in fact, I'll go back to the video where John Longmire and Josh Kennedy are at the front of the playing group, and he's making the official announcement. In fact, I don't think he got the official announcement. He just sort of started crying and everyone knew what was going on. But John Longmire's comments when he talks about having renewed respect for Josh Kennedy this year in terms of parking the ego and sort of playing his role as a senior player on the way out or end of his career. You're on the beat, here in Sydney covering the footy during the day or during the week. Is there a sideways glance, do you think, to another former Hawk who maybe is, haggling for extra coin going forward? Maybe, do you read anything to those John Longmire comments?
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, the Swans seem so authentic in everything that they do that I don't know if that's the case, potentially. But, one thing that stood out for me, talking to Josh Kennedy this week about his retirement and about the battle that he had to not only break into the Swans team regularly this season, but then into the midfield as well. Rowbottom and Warner, their development has been accelerated this season. So he had to play half back and on the wing and half forward. And I asked him how he dealt with that. And he said, years ago, I watched the great Adam Goodes play in the VFL to work his way back into form. And I learnt then that's what this club's all about. You speak about the culture of the Bloods, they go on about all the time, but that sums it up. They park the egos, and guys are willing to do those things to get back into the side and earn their spot. And Josh Kennedy followed on from Adam Goodes, and he then lays the platform, doesn't he, for the young guys to follow that mantra. And that's why this club has been so successful for so long now.
I have no doubt that Chad Warner is making the impact that he's making at the moment because of Josh Kennedy and what he's been able to groom him on the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the best leaders are the ones that grow players around them, and not just on field but off field. And I think the standards are set really high within this club, and that's been the case for a number of years now. And Josh Kennedy's been leading the way. So, yeah, you look at the midfield brigade that Sydney had, and I know I've spoken about it early on in the call, but there's so much depth there, and a lot of that would be to do with Josh Kennedy.
So these opening bounce here is 24 minutes away. We'll head inside the Collingwood camp very shortly as well. We'll go around the grounds to the MCG in a moment as well. 0437 774 774. A high team. I'm not sure if I'm more nervous about this game or more about next week, so I've cut my fingernails right down just in case. Go Pies, says Fran in Melbourne. Thank you, Fran, for your correspondence, and you can keep that coming right across the afternoon. 0437 774 774. There is that question as we head into the Pies camp shortly around the standards they set are so high. Craig McRae has this team playing phenomenal football, certainly in the clutch moments, but there is an element of luck to all of that. And at what point does Collingwood's luck begin to run out?
It's a really tricky one because on one hand you can say, hey, we've got our system down pat and our confidence down pat. When it gets tight, we know what we need to do and we get over the line. And there's also an element of, gee, we have been lucky, and when's that luck going to run out? Would you rather be smashing teams at this point in that 11 wins, or would you rather be getting across the line? I think I'd rather be smashing teams, to be totally honest, because to win that many, that close, there has to be an element of luck involved.
All right, let's head into the Magpies camp and say very good afternoon for the first time today. Glenn Lauder on the boundary for us on Grandstand AFL. Good day, Glenn.
Yeah, Spriggy, good afternoon to you. Fantastic conditions down here. We'll speak about that in just a few moments ahead of what is going to be a full house for a blockbuster between two teams chasing top two footy and obviously finals footy only a couple of weeks away. Josh Fraser is the Collingwood development coach. Josh, appreciate you chatting to us on ABC Grandstand. There has been so much talk about the importance of this game comes to the ladder, and obviously the external talk about the fact that you guys are going for 12 in a row, but how much do you try to put to one side and just focus on what you need to do to get those 4 points?
Yeah, I think one of our great strengths this year has been our ability to narrow our focus, and I think Four's done a great job from day one around selling the message. We just control what we can, and our weeks look very similar from week to week. The boys enjoy training. We go to work on areas of our game we need to keep improving, and we keep trying to promote and play to our strengths. So again, our focus remains really narrow from week to week, and I think that's been a great strength of what we've been able to do this year.
We just heard the guys upstairs talking about luck and potentially the luck running out. Would you call it luck, or would you call it the fact that you're playing good footy, and especially last week against Melbourne when you were behind for so long to get away with that win? It shows grit and determination.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard one to say we've been lucky or we've been unlucky, or when you win so many games in a row, you'd have to say there's maybe an element of luck, but majority of it's been good planning and hard work. And I think people forget pretty quickly too that this coaching group, this playing group, we've only been together for about 8 or 10 months. And this game style is a completely new game style, so our players have adapted and embraced that really quickly, probably quicker than most people thought. And one thing I do know is that whenever we're in a close game, and potentially that's what finals throw at you, whenever we're in a close game, we've got belief that we can get a result, and I'm not sure what that does to the opposition, with that knowledge that we do win those close games. But I'd like to think that, there might be an element of luck, but I also think there's been a lot of planning and hard work going behind the scenes.
Just before we go upstairs to get some questions from the guys, obviously Sydney are scoring a lot of points this season. You guys haven't hit 100 for the last few weeks. No Jordan De Goey today. Nick Dacos comes in, and he's a real prime example of how good the youth has worked for this team. So what do you think you win and lose there?
Geordie's been in super form. Yeah. Obviously, he's had some interruptions this year, but we certainly miss what he can do for us through the midfield and forward. And Nick's been a player that's played multiple roles for us. I can't quite remember a young player having the impact in different parts of the ground in their first year that he's had. So I think, again, our focus is always on a collective, and we know that we're going to have to defend the ground really well as a team. Obviously, Sydney possess the ball and like the uncontested style, particularly with their marking game, so that's going to be a focus for us early. And I'm anticipating a real arm wrestle in most phases of the game, but we've got a huge amount of respect for the Swans, and it's a great challenge for us to come up here and try and come away with a win.
Let's send it to the guys upstairs.
G'day, Josh. Nathan Burke here, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks, Nate. How are you, mate?
Very good, thanks, mate. You've got, there's the high-profile De Goeys and steel side bottoms and Pendleburys and all that sort of thing, but Patrick Lipinski, he's had an outstanding season thus far. He's third for possessions for you, the most score involvements, and I assume he's pleasantly surprised everybody.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. You're 100% right. And look, I think he was keen to explore other environments which would have allowed him to play some more regular footy. And I know he was highly regarded at the Bulldogs, but what he's been able to come in and do, again, play multiple roles for us, but his running capacity, his clean hands, his ability to set us up on the outside, I think he's been huge, and he's allowed not only his game to grow all year, but the way he plays, he's allowed other players to play different roles as well. So he's been a great addition to what we've been able to do this year.
G'day, Josh, Alicia, Eva up here. All the best today. Look, another player I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about, Ash Johnson. He's obviously played 4 games, kicked 10 goals, probably the biggest game of his career coming up today. How does he prepare this week? What work have you put in there? And are you expecting some attention for him today?
Oh, quite possibly. I mean, he's been so exciting, Ash, and we've loved his story. I mean, I can remember pre-season and seeing how much of a struggle it was for him to get through a training session, and the growth in him, personally, not only from a football perspective, but him as a person's been huge, and we want him to continue to play to his strengths. So, in terms of the education and development that goes into him, it's really around his key forward roles, but we're certainly not trying to overload him or add too many layers. We want him to express himself, play with some freedom, and we know at times he's not going to quite get it all right, but he's certainly been exciting for us in the front half, and today's another opportunity for him on a big stage.
Josh, you're third in the comp for tackles. I think the football world was gobsmacked at your intensity against Melbourne in the second half last week. The Swans are second in the comp for tackles. I mean, the stakes today are enormous. How aware are you of the pressure that Sydney might bring it and trying to replicate what you did last week?
Oh, yeah, it comes back to, I guess, my initial answer around luck. We've got a great belief in what we do, and we think that when our pressure game's high, it allows us to play the way we want, and we know we're coming up against a side today that also that's the backbone of the way they play. So, I mean, you mentioned last week the turnaround in the pressure. That's where I sort of, I guess, dispute the luck element of, I thought, when we've applied our pressure this year and played the way we wanted to play, we've been able to get results, and today that's going to be a huge challenge against a great side, and no doubt, as you mentioned, that the pressure aspect of this match is going to be critical.
Collingwood development coach and Grandstand AFL alumnus Josh Fraser with us on ABC Sport. Just lastly, Josh, you're a development coach. When you have players like Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos come to the club, as I guess was their destiny, how do you develop players with that sort of natural ability?
Yeah, they're the easy ones. I think you still have to manage them and I guess in a careful way, because they are such talented players that, again, you don't want to add layers for the sake of adding layers, but there's certainly lots of parts of the game, be it on field or be it professionalism and standards and those things that you're always educating your young guys on. But again, sometimes it's a matter of taking a step back and letting them go out and perform and again express themselves and play to their strengths. And I think those two guys are certainly in that basket, and both important parts of what we've done this year, and they lead the way in terms of their on-field performance, and something the rest of our young players do aspire to.
Appreciate your time, Josh. Best of luck today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Josh Fraser in the Collingwood camp here on Grandstand AFL. The opening bounce 15 minutes away. 0437 774 774. Back to your text shortly. Let's head around the grounds to the MCG. Richmond Hawthorn. Ben Cameron.
It's been an absolute procession at the MCG, Spriggy. They've kicked 8 unanswered goals, have Richmond in this third term. And really the story is Tom Lynch. He may be on his way to becoming 10-goal Tom, because he's booted 8 so far for Richmond. 8 straight. They lead by 74 points as it stands at the moment. So 17-5, 107 to 4-9-33. 26 minutes into the third term.
Good on you, Ben. Thank you for that. Off the SMS, can you please explain, asks Peter in Tambo Upper, why you've not covered the Richmond Hawthorn match? Well, unfortunately, Peter, we can't cover all the matches because they overlap. And I think when you look at Sydney, look at Collingwood, it'll become abundantly clear to you in about 15 minutes' time while we're covering this game in full and not that one. But the good news is you can find every ABC Grandstand call on the AFL app. Just find the ABC iconic worm. You can hear coverage of every game right across the season there to find and follow your team. But Richmond, they're doing it easily against Hawthorn at the MCG. We'll keep you across Essendon and Port at Docklands a little later on as well. Umpires make their way out. The Collingwood banner is up. They'll make their way out onto the SCG as the crowd continues to file in. It's just a superb atmosphere. A nice day in the Harbour City, and a blockbuster awaits us, the Swans and the Pies, here on Grandstand AFL.
Just a wonderful sight, isn't it? I mean, the fans are really starting to make their way in now. It's a sellout, so you can see the stands filling, both banners up. Collingwood thanking their New South Wales members on their banner, and the players are set to make their way on the SCG in a moment. Something struck me last week about Collingwood watching their win over Melbourne, because it surprised us, didn't it, the manner in which they played in that second half. And, I remember watching Leicester City with that incredible Premier League triumph all those years ago, and you kept waiting for them to lose. You kept thinking, this week they're going to lose, this week they're going to fall over, and it never happened. And that struck me last week with Collingwood, that the momentum and the belief is just growing week by week to the point where they can't see themselves losing games of footy at the moment, even though they are undermanned today. It just grows so strongly, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds me, and this was a long, long time ago, when the Saints had a run at the grand final in '97. We were 1-4 at the start, and then went on a 15-game winning streak. And it all becomes about, how do we need to play? You really disregard what the opposition do. Obviously you pay respect to them, and you have to change little nuances, but you get to that position where you go, if we go out and do us really well, it doesn't matter what the other team do. And you get the sense that Collingwood are in that really enviable position, and I think Swans are in that enviable position as well, that if they do them, well, then that will generally be good enough.
So 11 straight wins, 8 wins by 7 points or less in that time. 7 of their past 8 games have seen comebacks by 3 goals or more. There is that belief which Craig McRae talks about, Alicia, that they can win from anywhere. And when you do that so often as they have in the past few months, that's their thing, that's their MO.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you think about it, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the coach's box, or in the change rooms, because I reckon the word process is thrown around a little bit, and you need to focus on the process, not on the outcome. And I think for some of the younger players that are still developing, I think the process is kept really simple. It's pressure the ball carrier and then let's attack the corridor. And there was all this commentary last week around the one-trick pony stuff and whatnot, but I think Collingwood have found if particularly the younger players, if they stick to that simple process, they get the results. And then the other thing that I really like about Collingwood and like watching is the experienced players like Pendlebury and Sidebottom. You can see them; they can do the higher level thinking out on the ground. They know, they've got plenty of game knowledge, plenty of game experience to know what's required at certain points in the game. So I think for the younger boys, it's kept really simple, and for the older boys, there's obviously great trust by McRae and the coaching team that the more experienced players can take control out on the ground.
The Magpies are out there warming up in bright sunshine here at the SCG. Out come the Sydney Swans. Luke Parker leads them out. Callum Mills, youngest captain in the AFL. 150 games for Isaac Heaney. He's the especially celebrated player today, as they do mark 40 years in Sydney. The Bloods and their adoring home fans greet them onto the SCG on just a glorious day for football. The Sunday blockbuster awaits in 10 minutes' time here on Grandstand AFL. No Jordan De Goey then. We've touched on that, but how significant an out is that for the Pies?
Look, it's significant. He's a big game player, and in these sorts of games, they would love to have him out there. I think Taylor Adams is just as big a loss, to be totally honest. He's the number 1 clearance player.
Well, he's not due back until finals.
Yeah. He's the number 1 clearance player in this team, so you've got 2 of the top 3 sort of really big bulls inside that win the football. So that's where I mentioned Lipinski and these sort of guys. They have to become just better than good average players. They've got to be great players and step up and fill that void.
Yeah, just having a look at champion data at the moment. In the last month of footy, Jordy De Goey has been the number 2 clearance player for Collingwood in the last month. So that it's obviously a big loss in terms of that grunt going forward. It just means Lipinski has to step up a bit more, and of course Pendlebury and Crisp. We talk about the depth of Sydney, but Collingwood, they just have guys that step up and perform.
Alicia touched on the kicking efficiency, disposal efficiency by foot for the Sydney Swans. That is their quality. It's not been there quite as much for the Pies, but today's a big occasion. The nerves are also there as well.
It is, and this ground is small. And the Pies are used to running around the MCG, which is similar width, but it's certainly a little bit longer than this one. So whether that just takes their distance perspective and where they run on the ground it just makes it a little bit difficult for them. It's just a little bit different, and it's defending a ground that's a little bit smaller as well. So do they push back in defence, or do they push forward? Do they go from the half-back line a little bit quicker because they know that they can get it inside 50? It's only 1.5 kicks from, or pretty much 1 kick from there from inside defensive to inside forward 50 for some of these guys. With MCG, you've got to go through the wings. So there are some nuances to playing this ground that the Swans have conquered, and we'll see whether the Magpies can do the same.
Their forward line's so interesting, Collingwood. It's got such an element of unpredictability about it. Obviously, Brodie Myercheck is the focal point and such an honest footballer, and we know what Jamie Elliott can do. But the likes of Ash Johnson and Jack Ginnivan and Beau McCreary, they all have a little bit of unpredictability about them, don't they? Which makes them potentially a tough matchup for Sydney.
Yeah, I think we'll find the matchups might change throughout the game, but they're very dynamic, aren't they? And, I think if your big key forward isn't marking the ball, the next thing they need to be doing is bring it to the front so the smalls can get to work, and I think that's where Collingwood are quite dangerous. I think there'll be multiple goal kickers today out of that Collingwood forward line.
Speaking of goal kickers, who gets Buddy? How do they mark him?
Berkey?
Double team. You got Darcy Moore's always the one who gets him and has performed quite well on him in the past. Whether it's a Darcy Moore, Nathan Murphy double act, how best do you quell him today?
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you set someone for him and say don't leave? That's not your Darcy Moore type player. Darcy Moore can play on him and off him. He loves to get involved in extracurricular activities around the ground, and he gets to play third man up at different times. So whether they want a lockdown or do they back Darcy Moore to play his game on him, personally, I'd rather Darcy play his game.
And it'd be really interesting to see what happens as well, because if they're looking for that chop-out support on Buddy, it obviously opens up Logan McDonald, who's a lead-up player. He is a lead-up forward. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out today. But it's so important that there is pressure on the ball coming inside 50. I think Collingwood mids have got to get that done.
That's the big thing, Garby. You've spoken about the depth, the riches they have, the Sydney Swans up forward. McDonald's, of course, back in the side the past few weeks. A lot of guys still playing in the VFL. And incidentally, by the way, the VFL was won by Sydney by 3 points. So the Magpies didn't win that close game, but that was a thriller. Hopefully sets the tone for a good afternoon of footy here today. But McDonald is another one of those players up forward for the Sydney Swans who is showing a bit more week on week. Yeah, but
you feel like he needs to have a big game today, because you got Pete Laddams, who was a prized recruit who's running around in the VFL, and Sam Reid can play solely as a forward if they need him to. He's doing a wonderful job as the pinch hitting ruck at the moment. But if Logan McDonald doesn't have a big game, Sam Reid can play as the forward and Laddams can come in and play the second ruck, and he just needs to be a little bit careful, I think, Logan McDonald, about his spot in the team, and he'd be aware of that, I'm sure. But he's a guy that probably needs to put in a big performance a week out from the finals, going into next week. You'd think this afternoon at the SCG when the pressure's on.
We know it's hard to match up on Buddy, but I think it would have been an even harder thing to do to match up on an Isaac Heaney, because we know how good he is when the ball's in the air, and we know how good he is when he's on the ground. So have you got a defender who can do both equally? You might have one who's pretty good in the air, can spoil the ball, not so good on the ground, or one that's great when he hits the ground, not so good in the air. Heaney can do everything. So that's a really tough matchup.
Isaac Quaynor down back for the Pies is probably that.
Yeah, he is, but he's still learning the ropes a little bit. He's not a seasoned defender. You'd love a seasoned one down there to actually be able to play. And the other one's Will Haywood. He's the third most goals for Sydney Swans. I think if you ask most people in the crowd, you'd be saying Papley and the other guys, but Haywood's kicked 27 for the year. That's a mighty effort.
He's had a sneaky good season.
He has.
You don't notice what he does week in, week out, but he always hits the scoreboard. His pressure's really good as well, and he provides a bit of the line and length around Papley and Heaney and Franklin, all these magical players.
You touched on the experience, Alicia, for either of these sides. And up forward for the Swans, Sam Reid, who Garby just mentioned a short time ago, he's having a phenomenal year, and he is one of those players. Career on the scrap heap probably a year or so ago. He'll get an extra year going forward. But as far as today goes, he's one of those other key players for the Sydney Swans.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the attention, Buddy is the number one target inside 50. That's been the case for a number of years, but this is a great opportunity for Sam Reid. I'm just watching him have a set shot. A great opportunity for him to take second, third best defender. We know he's got great hands. We know he's very strong in the air. So particularly when the pressure's on early, you expect long kicks inside 50, so he's got to go to work there. And as I mentioned earlier, if he's not marking them, he's got to be bringing the ball to ground for some of those smalls to go to work.
All right then, we're only moments away from the opening bounce. Break it all down for us as far as your key areas. We can go in depth for the next little while. Pies are out there warming up at the Paddington end, the Swans at the Randwick end or southern end of the ground in relatively bright sunshine here at the SCG. Whereas this game went unlost, Nathan Burke and Alicia Eva.
I saw the game last night, Melbourne and Carlton, and that was played with finals-like intensity, but neither side really handled the intensity that the other team threw at them, and as such, it was a really scrappy game, and goals just sort of eventuated from nowhere, not some great play. I could almost see a similar thing developing today with both teams. I think Alicia mentioned early on that they're second and third in tackles across the whole league. So I think this is going to be a real tight game. And whichever team can handle that finals-like intensity, the better will get the chocolates in the end. So I really can't say which one that is going to be until it unfolds, Alicia.
No, this is a very hard game to call. I think statistically, when you look at contested ball and also, loose ball gets around the ground and pressure, the Swans probably have the more complete game style, but you just can't write Collingwood off. This finals type footy, it's a massive game today. I think if they can take away the uncontested marking of the Swans, it is game on. And I think what I love about Collingwood's game is they get it moving quickly. They love live ball. They play with a bit of chaos and they score off the back of a bit of chaos. So I think for me it's probably Sydney by a couple of goals.
That is a summation we sort of touched on in this pre-game so far, is that in many respects Sydney's strengths are Collingwood's weaknesses. So the matchup, at least on paper, and factoring in all that data, which might not mean much at this time of the year, favours the home side. But is that a fair enough comment, Berkey, that the Pies, that probably is the way it goes? Sydney's strengths are Collingwood's weaknesses?
Yeah, to a degree. And I think the home ground is going to play a big factor in this. So I'm going to tip the Swans in a close one. But as we said, I didn't have Collingwood in the 8 at the start of the year. They've astounded me week in and week out. I've been nothing but impressed with the new game style that they've been able to master in such a short period of time. Craig McRae's done an outstanding job. So, you can't write the Pies off.
No, by no means. That's been the entire thread of the past 11 weeks. Scott Pennebury's won the toss and the Magpies will kick to the Paddington or northern end of the SCG to start. So their record against top 8 sides, they're 4 wins, 3 losses. They've beaten Melbourne twice, Fremantle, Carlton. They've lost to Geelong, Brisbane, Richmond. They are yet to play the Swans. Last time they met was round 9 of last year, so a fair while back now. Sydney won that by 30 points. Heaney kicked 3 goals, had 22 touches. Franklin and Papley each kicked 2. Maynard had 29. There's another player as well, Braden Maynard, very important player for the Magpies.
Yeah, he's just one of those blokes that you can guarantee he's going to give his all every single week. He's a heart and soul player, and every team needs those.
The players break from their last huddles as the clouds move across the SCG. The opening bounce is moments away. Glenn Lauder on the boundary for us this afternoon. What's it like down there, Glenn?
Spriggy, good afternoon to you. Well, I left the umbrella at home. I think I'm going to be safe because although there's a little bit of wispy white cloud around, I think we'll be okay for any kind of showers. 17 degrees and Scott Pendlebury will see his Pies running into the wind in the first quarter. The flags over the top of the members stand here at the Sydney Cricket Ground, about 30 k's an hour coming from the northwest. So significant enough, but it's going to be an interesting battle, isn't it, with obviously what has happened with Sydney during the week. Josh Kennedy just came over to sit next to John Longmire on the bench. A round of applause by the Sydney faithful. And although it was a sellout on paper, still a few empty seats. So we'll watch out for that one. Just incidentally, a really small change on the bench for Sydney. Oliver Florent was named to start, but he'll start on the interchange bench. Nick Blakely will start in the 18 for Sydney. And obviously the milestone man, Isaac Heaney, 150. Jamie Elliott, 150 last week for Collingwood, had a blinder. Let's see what Isaac Heaney does today.
Underway here, here's Daniel Garb.
A special Sunday at the SCG. The Pies and the Swans, a top 2 spot up for grabs. And the Pies surge inside 50 to start through Braden Maynard's kick. Paddy McCartan collects it though and takes it over for a rush behind. So the first score to the Magpies. Nice hush around the SCG now. Everyone's been waiting for a couple of hours inside this ground for this big game to unfold. Here's Brett Sprigg on ABC Grandstand.
Lloyd kicks out of bounds on the full. So the Pies will get the footy back in front of the members stand at left half forward. It is Trent Bianco, who was the late in for Jordan De Goey. He was the used sub last week, Trent Bianco. Send it long to the hot spot from 65 out. Players converge at full forward for the Magpies. Goulden tracks it back here for the Swans. Runs it out of bounds for a throw-in deep in the right forward pocket. Collingwood's attacking end. The Bradman and Noble stands are packed. Beautiful day for footy. The only score Collingwood's way are behind so far inside the opening 70 seconds.
Magpies kicking to the left of your radio dial. Cameron and Hickey contest inside, attacking 50 for the Pies. Blakey can't collect. He's wrapped up by Hoskin Elliott and side bottom. We'll have another ball up inside 50. So the tackling pressure on early, as expected, Alicia Eva.
Yeah, and the thing that is apparent, actually, I'll let you call this, boys.
Cameron, couple of bites at the cherry, taps it down, picked up by Mills, handball to Parker inside defensive 50 for the Swans. His clearing kick is controlled by Franklin, gathers it on the bounce, now snaps it up the wing. Tracking back is Darcy Moore to get it just behind halfway for the Pies. Handball back to Nathan Murphy. What a season he's had. A breakout, big leap by Blakey, couldn't collect. Umpire will play advantage. Hoskin Elliott has it on the wing, puts the Pies inside 50 into the right forward pocket. Tracking it back is Robbie Fox. He'll take it over the boundary line. Big leap by Nick Blake. He didn't get near the football, but the energy is high early.
I will continue what I was going to say. That first kick in, Jake Lloyd kicks it out of bounds on the full. You rarely see that. So that just says a lot about the mentality of Collingwood's defence at the moment. Shut down all the one-on-ones.
Couple of weeks shy of finals. There's certainly finals-like pressure out there. Hickey wins it down here for Warner. They can clear beyond defensive 50 here, the Swans. Out to a 3-on-2. Reid stands strong, takes a towering mark on the wing. In front of the O'Reilly stand. Up the line now. Heaney in open space. Quainer goes to him. Goes the big fan Heaney. Chops the hand pass back inboard. It missed Clark. Overrun by Pendlebury. Here for the Pies. Moore can rebound. Goes by hand though. Here is Crisp. On that left boot, comes up the line and finds Ash Johnson. Couldn't quite control the mark behind his back. It was clever though from him. Spilled it though. Got the hand pass away. Only as far as Blakey for the Swans, and they can rebound again. Parker will just settle things down on the eastern wing.
Now Parker kicks the Swans inside 50, looking for Franklin. In a tussle with Moore, picked up by Heaney in the left forward pocket. Couldn't control it. Spills to Jeremy Howe. Under pressure is Murphy. His kick is smothered by the great Lance Franklin, doing the tough stuff, and we'll have a boundary throw in inside attacking 50 for Sydney.
Isaac Heaney just slow to get back to his feet there. I think it was a clash with Moore. It was accidental, but now he's putting his boot back on, but looked a little bit stunned.
3.5 minutes travelled. Magpies with the only scorer behind so far. Pendlebury can clear off that right boot in the end and finds Jamie Elliott, who, as Glenn mentioned, milestone game for him last week. Also re-signed a new deal until end of 2025, Jamie Elliott. Certainly a key player for the Magpies. Comes inboard now to find Isaac Quainer. Recent 50-gamer himself. Call to play on from right half-back. Sends it up the line. Again, the pack converges. Johnson gets set. Second bite, can't reel it in. Paddy McCartan competes with him. The umpire says, give it to me. A ball up on the outer wing between wing and half-forward. Magpies attacking the Paddington end in this first term.
Magpies one behind. Sydney yet to score. The Swans clear it on the outer wing. Bounces in front of Sam Reid and then sits up nicely for Quainer. Good hit on side bottom by Ryan Clark, and the Swans win it back. Here's Rowbottom. A kick into attack favours no one from his team though. Bianco watches it closely and just gets a hand on it. Falls to Murphy. Now Howe with the left boot. Picks out a teammate in Lipinski who has space on the wing. Handball over the top to Ginnivan. Just outside 50 for the Pies. It's a high ball to the top of the square. Off hands and through for a behind. So Collingwood 2 behind. Sydney yet to score, but that was quick transition from the defensive 50 from the Magpies.
5 gone in the opening term. Collingwood with the first couple of behinds. Goulden marks the kick out. And that left peg from the left back pocket finds Luke Parker. Outer edge of the square. Again, he just slows things down. A cool head of Luke Parker. Shares it with Warner. Goulden continued the run, just thought of halfway. Goes inside 50. Franklin had a contest coming late with Darcy Moore. Warner overran the football here for the Swans. Opposite number, Lipinski gathers. Parker tackles him, dispossesses him. Loose football, pounced on by Warner. He shanks the kick, trickles towards the left forward pocket. Heaney is there, competes with Murphy, keeps it alive for Haywood, who can snap from the pocket. And the Swans have their first opportunities missed to the far side for a minor score. Collingwood 2 behind. Sydney 1. 6 gone. Opening term Grandstand AFL via ABC Sport.
Isaac Heaney, I think most people were thinking that ball was just going to roll over the boundary line, but he just made something out of nothing, got his hands free, handballed the ball to Haywood, and potentially should have been their first goal.
Jeremy Howe's kick is well marked by Darcy Cameron at left half back for the Pies. Did well to just work Hickey off the ball. The big Pies ruckman, who's been so impressive since the Brodie Grundy injury, sends the ball up to the wing. Nice leap from Paddy McCartan at the front of the pack, and that's what he's done so well all season long. Take intercept marks. Comes into some treatment from Brodie Myercheck after doing so, but he's second in the comp. Paddy McCartan 4 intercept marks. He's taken another one on the wing for the Swans. Goes short to Ollie Florent. Collingwood 2 behinds. Sydney 1 behind. 6.5 minutes gone in the first quarter. Florent sends it to half forward. Up to meet it is Sam Reid. Lovely leap, timed his jump beautifully. He's marked just outside 50, right half forward for the Swans. He'll go to the pocket looking for Hickey. Heaney, though, calls shotgun and has marked it on the lead. And Isaac Heaney can snap on his left from the right forward pocket.
And that passage of play just set up from that mark from McCartan on the wing here. And I think when you look at Collingwood's forward line at the moment, I think there were about 3 smalls then, and McCartan found himself on Nick Dacos at one point. So Dacos isn't going to compete in the air long down the line, so that's why McCartan's come across and taken the mark.
Isaac Heaney in game 150. That was a lovely opportunity to cap it off with the goal early doors, but he's hit the post. Wasn't his best effort. Swans 2 behinds, Collingwood 2 behinds, and we have gone 7 and a bit in the first quarter.
Still waiting for a goal here. Darcy Moore to kick out. We'll have boundary side shortly. Moore pulls the kick, goes short to Jeremy Howe. Pies looking for a way out. In the left back pocket, the Tasmanian beyond defensive 50. Florent wrestles with Ginnivan, but allowed the space there for Darcy Cameron, who was a one-time Swan. Started his career here in Sydney. Comes inboard now for his skipper Pendlebury. Neat kick with that left boot. Fellow veteran Sobotton beaten to it though by Haywood. Marks on the logo commentary side. Swans can go again on the overlap. Marking just front edge of the square. Goulden goes inside forward 50. Franklin's all by himself. It arrives on the bounce to him. Left forward pocket now. Centering ball for Heaney, top of the square. And he'll have the set shot from 15 out. Slight angle to the right. Should have no dramas here, Isaac Heaney. Opens up the angle quickly and sneaks it through. The Swans get the first. In front of a sellout crowd at the SCG. They're 1-2-8. Collingwood 2 behinds. We've played 8.5 minutes in this first term down in Glen Lauder on the boundary.
It's fitting, isn't it, for Isaac Heaney to get the first goal in game number 150. And we talk about accuracy before the game. Well, Collingwood started last week, 7 goals, no behinds, and 2 behinds to start this one. And just a word on Scott Pendlebury, he'd be disappointed to give that turnover away in the middle of the park, which led to that opening goal for Sydney.
I think part of that turnover came from, we know the Collingwood team like to use that centre corridor, and they haven't used it once yet. Sydney have forced them wide around the boundary line every single time they've taken the ball from their defence, trying to get it up into their forward line, and it was almost like, we haven't gone through the middle yet, I'm going to force something. And when he forced it, it was just a really bad decision and ended up in the Swans goal.
Swans 1-2-8, Magpies 2 behinds. Heaney with the first in a milestone game. Game 150 for him. Collingwood win the clearance though from the middle through side bottom. Picked up by McCreary at left half forward. Handball back to Bianco. Back to side bottom and now to McCreary. So the Pies control the ball well. Now they go inside 50. Myercheck floats across the pack. Got a couple of bites on it. Snatched away from him though by Hickey. Swans turn it over though to McCreary. Maynard tries to win it. Clark and Rowbottom get it back for the Swans. Good tackle and Rowbottom by Noble. Ball spills free, only as far as Goulden though. Here's Clark looking for Franklin on the lead. Goes over his head, Moore tracks the back. Buddy's with him though. Crisp is there, and they've locked it up inside attacking 50 for the Swans.
Buddy's been free 3 times so far going inside forward 50, and they've missed him every time.
Swans by 6 points early. Up it goes. Cox and Hickey. Hickey goes again. Cox overran it. Plucked free here by Josh Carmichael. Turns it beyond defensive 50. Contest on the outer side. Comes back to Rampy. Fires on goal from 52. Dane Rampy for a rare goal.
Round 20, 2016 was his last goal. It has been 6 years.
The Swans co-skipper gets their second. A flying shot from 52 on the run. And the Swans settling quickly here at the SCG. 11 go on first term. Sydney 2-2-14. Collingwood 2 behinds here on Grandstand AFL.
And didn't they love that? Didn't they all get around Dane Rampy then? 2016 was his last goal.
Round 20,
Wow.
2016.
Just his seventh career goal for what? He's a 200 gamer, isn't he?
Wow. Berkey, you mentioned just then that Buddy's been free 3 times inside 50, and that's why when we talk about Collingwood's pressure, that implied pressure is critical to put the ball carrier who's delivering the ball inside 50 to make him make an error in his kick. Because if there's no pressure on that player running through the middle of the ground, Buddy's hit up 3 out of 3 times there. So that chase pressure, particularly from Collingwood's high forwards, is critical today.
You know it's a special day at the SCG when Dane Rampy's kicking goals. He's first since 2016, just the 7th of his career. Swans 2-2-14, Collingwood 2 behinds. 11 and a half minutes gone in the first quarter. Josh Dacos wins it in the middle for the Pies. Tumbling kick to right half forward. Robbie Fox tries to tap it to himself. Cameron's there, along with Paddy McCartan. And he's caught high as Paddy McCartan, so a free kick. In fact, it's going to Robbie Fox at left half back. A free kick to the Swans defender. Just inside defensive 50. Tucks it under his arm and plays on. Sends it up to the wing. McDonald made a good contest for Sydney. Heaney's there in the yellow boots. Crisp is fighting hard with him and they'll lock it up. We'll have a ball up on the outer side. So hasn't that sparked the game into life? A rare Dane Rampy major.
Swans by 12, 14 go on first term. Overrun this time by Josh Dacos. Collingwood work the footy up the line, but it's marked by Jake Lloyd. Just in front of left half back. As I mentioned, the 2-time best and fairest off contract, so negotiating a new deal as we speak. And Charlie Gardner said there would be news in the next couple of weeks. Here's the wingman McInerney. Comes infield now for Robbie Fox. Called to play on from the outer logo. Towards the flank. It was a well-weighted pass here for Luke Parker. 55 from goal. Tumbles it high inside the arc. McDonald leads up. Couldn't quite control it. Papley swooping through. Taken and the tackle by Noble. And the umpire says, let's ball it up. Deep at left, full forward. City's attacking end. The Randwick end. It's they who lead. 2-2 plays 2 behinds. 13 gone here in the opening term.
High stakes football. Swans with the jump on the Pies. Hickey tries to palm it down looking for Callum Mills, but we'll have a boundary throw in inside attacking 50 for the Swans.
If McDonald wants to stay in the team, he needs to take those. He's got 2 hands to it. He's out in front, big forward, gets himself a shot at goal, gets his confidence up. Missed opportunity.
Mason Cox doing the ruck work with Hickey. Hickey works his way to the front, palms it down with his right hand to Parker. Heaney's there, tackled well by Howe, but he gets the handball free to Ryan Clark. His handball went through the hands of Callum Mills. Magpies can clear it up to the wing. Paddy McCartan tracks it back though. The 1-2 with Ollie Florent via the handballs. Now goes all the way back to Dane Rampy. And he'll switch it up for Tom McCartan. The Swans will control the football.
From centre half back, thinking little kick here for Dylan Stevens. Comes up the line trying to find Haywood. Pressure though comes from Maynard. Knocked back in space. Stevens, the Mildura lad, goes back inside defensive 50 here for the Sydney Swans, where it is marked by Dane Rampy. Co-captain finds his fellow skipper in Callum Mills. He'll flare it across the half-back line again. In plenty of space, here is Florent. Draws the play up, sends the hand pass inboard now for Robbie Fox. Has a bit of room to move himself, comes wide for McInerney. So a slow build-up here for the Sydney Swans, using it by foot enthusiastically. Papley takes a chest mark just forward of halfway. They're set up either side of the arc. It's the Swans attacking end. Now Parker. He'll swing it back infield. Overcooks the kick here for Mills. Pressure now. Ginnivan pounced on that ball for the middle of the SCG. High spiralling ball. A torpedo inside forward 50. It'll bounce loose in the pocket. Back there McCreary. He's all on his own. Slips over. They close him down. McCartan, that was Paddy, came late. Myercheck slips one tackle, snaps and goals. So Myercheck was running in support up the middle of the SCG. And despite that little error from McCreary, Myercheck recovers and goals, and the Pies have their first of the afternoon. They're 1-2-8, Sydney 2-2-14, 15 played first term here on Grandstand AFL. Let's go around the grounds to the MCG. Ben Cameron keeping an eye on Richmond Hawthorn.
Yeah, the Tigers leading by 62 points, Spriggy, 18 minutes into this fourth term. Tom Lynch with 8 goals on the day.
Well, Jack Ginnivan is very lucky then that went through for a goal, because he had two players running ahead of him inside forward 50. He was inside the centre square and went for the big torpedo to try and kick it from 65. Should have just done a lovely little drop punt out in front of his teammates and would have made that goal very, very easy. In the end, they got the result, but boy, it was harder than it needed to be.
The Pies did pounce, though, on a Swans mistake in the middle of the ground, and in a counter-attacking style went down the other end quickly and were able to get their first on the board. Down quickly to the boundary, and Glenn Lauder.
Yeah, they haven't been able to get forward 50 too often, Collingwood, through the first 15 minutes or so of this quarter, but they would be pleased that they're on the goal scoring sheet at the moment. Don't forget, they led through the first 4 minutes last week and then didn't lead again until the final 15. So even if Sydney are able to get ahead, don't write Collingwood off.
Swans by a goal. Magpies have it on the outer side. Noble bounces in front of Ash Johnson and then goes through his hands. Lloyd is there. He sees it over the boundary line, but Johnson's won a free kick. High contact from Robbie Fox. So this precocious talent who's made such an impact for the Magpies and's coming into the team. Kicked 4 goals from 6 kicks last week. Sends the Pies inside 50 off the hands of Nick Blakey and then Jake Lloyd. An over 4-8 boundary throw in inside attacking 50 for the Magpies.
So the Magpies have actually won all 4 centre clearances, but what Sydney have been able to do perhaps too easily is just repel from their back half. So those entries into inside forward 50, when they get it in there, they need to lock it in there, as they've done on this occasion.
17 going first term. City by 6 points here. Magpies look the soccer at forward. Mason Cox stuck the boot out, still waiting for a clearance. Numbers in defence here with the red and whites. They'll rebound the football. Coming wide beyond defensive 50 out to Hayward. Strong contested grab in the contest with sideline. It was a nice, neat pass beyond defensive 50 from McInerney. And Hayward controls the ball in the shadows of the members' stand. Finds Dylan Stevens. Craig McRae coaching from the boundary downstairs. Stevens not far from there. Commentary side. Kicks for distance. Up the members' side of the SCG. Franklin almost competed with his teammate McDonald, but Franklin does control the mark. In fact, it's going to be a free kick or a block. Going to go Mason Cox's way. Magpies with the footy at left half back.
Swans fans don't like that. The ball being taken away from Buddy, who had taken a contested mark cleanly in his eyes, but a block on the play. So Cox sends it up to half forward for Collingwood. Side bottoms there, picked up by Lipinski's handball, those only as far as Dylan Stevens. He looks for Rowbottom up the wing. It actually bounces the way of Luke Parker, who snaps it to half forward. There are Magpies back there, though, and Jeremy Howe watches it closely and takes a mark on his chest just outside defensive 50 for Collingwood, who trail 2-2-14 to 1-2-8. And we've gone 18 minutes in the first quarter.
So it's drop okay for Johnson, just sort of coming in on the members' side. Dropped in his lap, so he takes the uncontested mark. Skids his kick towards 50, leading up to find Elliott, and it just goes out in front of him over for a throw-in right on the junction of 50 at left half forward with the Pies at the Paddington end. So Sydney 2-2-14, Collingwood 1-2-8, 19 played in the opening term. Earlier in the VFL, the Swans beat the Magpies by 3 points. The umpire heaves it back in here. Cox competes with Reid. Sam Reid's hand pass for Florent. Walks his way around the big American. And now Franklin takes the mark on the wing. Shares the hand pass to Heaney. Back infield. It was a ball-like pass by hand to Stevens. He missed it. Mopped up by Rowbottom. Now Parker. Loose man now Mills to Florent. Run down by Noble. Just got the hand pass. Waited Ollie Florent. Papley comes across. Goes the fend. Couple of Pies sport each other. Papley's tumbling kick goes through for a goal. Superb build-up play from Sydney. Tom Papley clever. He had 2 Collingwood teammates collide. He went straight between them, snapped on goal, and the Swans have their third. 3-2-20, Collingwood 1-2-8. Approaching time on here in the first quarter on ABC Sport. This is Grandstand AFL.
Well, just very hard to defend that ball when it's moving so quick through the middle of the ground, and it wasn't pretty. There were a few fundamental skill errors then by the Swans as they chained through the middle of the ground, but when you move the ball at pace and with a bit of chaos, that's when players like Tom Papley go to work.
They were under pressure there, the Swans, weren't they? They just managed to work it quickly through the middle of the ground. It found its way to Papley, and the Energizer Bunny of the Sydney Swans side snapped truly. He's on a wonderful run of form at the moment, is Tom Papley. He's kicked 2+ goals in his last 5 games. On the board already. Swans leading by 12 points. Nearing time on in the first quarter, and Rowbottom wins it in the middle of the ground, kicks it deep inside 50 for Sydney. Reed's there. Nathan Murphy tracks it closely. They'll see it over the boundary line. We've now hit time on in the first quarter. Sydney 3-2-20. Collingwood 1-2-8. Boundary throw incoming inside. Attack for the home side. SCG bathed in red and white on a sunny day in Sydney. Mason Cox has front position. Tom Hickey's with him. Isaac Heaney's been lively, as has Callum Mills. Ball spills free. There's Rowbottom. Side bottom under pressure. Can't get it clear. Well done by Chad Warner to get hands on the footy. In attack for Sydney. Rowbottom gets the handball clear. Mills tries to soccer it off the ground. It's well blocked. Crisp is tackled. Bodies fall on top of each other. Pies managed to move it forward about 5-10 metres from their own goal line, but we'll have a ball up just inside 50 for Sydney.
Both coaches on the bench, in fact, as they are quite partial to, John Longmire and Craig McRae, coaching among their players. Crisp and clear here for the Pies. Ginnivan parries out here towards Lipinski. Off a step. Just slaps boots the ball. High in the air it goes. Johnson competes with Fox. Gets there on the bounce, Ash Johnson. And he's run out of bounds by Robbie Fox. The umpire says let's throw it back in on the O'Reilly wing here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Swans by 12 points. 22 gone in the first term.
Heaney and Parker both up to 7 disposals already for Sydney. Side, bottom and Howe, 5 apiece for the Magpies. Inside 50s, 11 to the Swans, 8 to Collingwood. Boundary throw in on the outer wing. Here's Rowbottom, handball inside, looking for McInerney. Missed its mark, but McInerney recovered well. Gets it to Stevens. He shows some composure to get around a couple of would-be tacklers. Back to Lloyd. He goes wide and finds a co-captain in Callum Mills on the outer side, which is bathed in sunshine. Mills goes short and hits up Stevens.
So again, the Swans just slowing things down. Stevens on the outer side. Sends it up the boundary line now to find Goulden. 75 from goal here at the Swans attacking end, the Randwick end. Plenty of punters shield their eyes from the sun as Goulden loads up to go inside 50. McDonald gets set there for the Swans. Cox down to his teammate Maynard. McDonald hand pass off here towards Clark, who can snap and dribble it through. Clever work for the Swans again. It was quite simple crumbing, and they manufacture their fourth goal of the afternoon. We'll come back and have a look at this, just in case there was a touch on that ball. That's the soft signal there from umpire Nathan Williamson.
Not sure whether it hit the post.
Or hit the post, he's saying, yeah. May have just skidded through the padding on that right-hand side.
This could be a snicko job, I think.
Thing is, though, how well can they judge the, you're looking at the, it is the padding. It's not quite the, the harder part of the post. But yes, they have got the, what do they call it? The
Snicko.
Yeah, well, and it is a behind. So Ryan Clark's goal will not be a goal after all. Minor score for the Swans, 3-3-21 their score. Collingwood 1-2-8, 24 gone here in the first term.
That's a big let-off for the Magpies.
Magpies send it up to left half back through the hands of Hoskin Elliott. Stevens, who's been busy over the last 5 minutes, gathers the football with a right foot snap. Sends the Swans into attack again. Coming out to meet it strongly with Sam Reid. Good tackle on Howe by a Swan there. I think it's Errol Goulden. It is in the blue boots. So good forward pressure by Sydney. They lock it up inside. Attacking 50 once more. Leading by 13 points. Palm down by Hickey to Reid. Quick handball to Heaney. Snap on goal with the left. Has bounced almost through. Just hits the post. 3/4 of the way up on the padding. The SCG was ready to rise then for another major. Isaac Heaney denied by the post. Swans lead by 14 points.
Dacos kicks out beyond offensive 50. Hoskin Elliott goes up. Spoil from a couple of Swans in there was Tom McCartan. Noble at ground level now for the Magpies. Slips the Papley tackle. Lipinski can rebound here for the visitors. Getting across. Tom McCartan did well. The kick was bound for Myercheck, but Tom McCartan with a desperate attempt to just palm that ball out over the boundary line in front of the benches for a throw-in on the commentary side. Sydney 3-4-22. Collingwood 1-2-8. 25 minutes travelled here in the first term at the SCG.
You mentioned it earlier, Berkey, that Sydney were defending Collingwood's ball movement really well. They just cannot get it out of their defensive half at the moment.
Rowbottom has it on the wing. His handball is blocked. Free kick here going the way of Collingwood. It'll go to Scott Pendlebury. Chance for the Magpies to settle. They've been under pressure Sydney 3-4-22. Collingwood 1-2-8. Pendlebury just guides it to half forward. Coming across the pack was Rowbottom. Josh Dacos tries to gather the football, but he's met solidly. We'll have a boundary throw in just inside 50 for the Pies. Down to the boundary and Glenn Lauder.
Yeah, Buddy Franklin just about to return to the action. Luke Parker just had a spell as well. He's back on the field. And you mentioned John Longmire coaching from the dugout. Josh Kennedy right next to him, and interesting to watch Josh Kennedy in his new role. He is thriving.
Certainly is. Comes back infield now for the Magpies. It's a huge shot on goal from Josh Dacos. So great work from the stoppage. Pendlebury to Josh Dacos, the flying shot from 50, and Collingwood, that's their second goal of the afternoon. 2-2-14, trailing the Swans who are 3-4-22. 26 travelled first term. Your experts on Grandstand AFL are Nathan Burke and Alicia Eva.
Sydney were really upset about that one because that was just a goal out of nothing. It was a throw in just outside their forward 50. You're leaving Dacos all alone at the back of the pack and just able to sort of pretty much waltz inside 50 and put the ball through. And that's not how Sydney play. So I'm sure John Longmire, if he was up in the box, there'd be a few expletives being thrown around. But he's probably controlling himself when he's down there on the boundary. But giving up a goal pretty much from nothing there, the Sydney Swans did.
Lovely finish from Josh Dacos, who averages 21 disposals against the Swans. That's his second best return against any team in the AFL. Number of people touting him as an All-Australian wingman this season. Swans lead cut back to 8 points. Final stages of the first quarter. Can the Pies get another one? Socket off the ground by Darcy Cameron. Well blocked by Paddy McCartan, who was surely caught high by Cameron running through after his soccer effort. He was. McCartan up quickly though to take his free kick. Goes wide to Callum Mills, who goes up the boundary to Rowbottom. Marks, plays on, goes inside 50 now over the head of Papley. Gathered by the Magpies in defence through Crisp, and now Darcy Moore. Under pressure there is Carmichael, and he's turned it over to Sam Reid. Well done Ryan Clark with the pressure. His kick though is picked off by Braden Maynard. Good gang tackling by the Swans here. Reid and Rowbottom. They wrap up Jack Crisp, and we'll have a ball up just outside attacking 50 for Sydney.
Up it goes. Hickey against Cameron. Spilled by Sidebottom. Rowbottom goes there for the Swans, and the kick is smothered. It goes out of bounds for a throw-in. 70 around from the Sydney Swans goal. Randwick end. Sydney by 8 points here. 28 travelled first term. Great to have your company on Grandstand AFL via ABC Sport. Umpire tosses it back in. Again, it's Hickey and Cameron. Down here to Nick Dacos. Stumps it beyond defensive 50. Paddy McCartan has some support in defence. Robbie Fox. Elliott's all by himself though for the Pies. Swoops his way through here, the Magpie. Goes inside forward 50. Johnson's got 2 to beat. Goes up. Didn't have claim enough for the mark. In fact, he is paid. A late call for either the mark or the chopping of the arms. Either way, same result for Collingwood. Ash Johnson at the left forward pocket, no more than 25 metres out.
I think the umpire may have paid a chop of the arms.
Blakey coming across, just seeing the replay here. Either way, he was well set in the contest against 2 defenders, Ash Johnson, so he deserves to have the footy in his hands.
I think it's the first time he's had the footy in his hands inside his forward 50. He's been doing a lot of his work in between the arcs, but it was great to see Collingwood get some ascendancy at stoppage and get the ball going forward their way.
4 goals against the D's last week. 45-degree angle here for Ash Johnson, and it's across the face to the right-hand side. A minor score. Collingwood 2-3-15, trailing Sydney 3-4-22. 29 gone first term here.
The opening quarter living up to the hype here at the SCG. Swans leading by 7 points. Lloyd brings it back in and finds Paddy McCartan, left half back for the Swans. He'll send it up the wing. Heaney's there. So is Nathan Murphy with him, and Murphy spoils it over the boundary line. You mentioned Isaac Heaney, Nathan Burke pre-game. 8 disposals already, 1 goal, 2 behinds. He's been pretty active in this first quarter. How big of a concern is that for Craig McRae, the matchup of Heaney? He's so dynamic.
Absolutely it is. If it continues like this and he ends up with 32 and 4, Swans will win.
Good maths.
Yep, Swans will win that one.
Back in it comes. Parker shuffles out the hand pass for Lloyd. Goulden now for the Swans. Slips the tackle of Carmichael. Comes up the line here for Hickey, who marks 65 from goal. Goes inside 50 but finds the chest of Nathan Murphy. The intercept mark here for the Magpies.
This is where Collingwood have just broken down. When the ball's deep inside their defensive 50, they're being forced to go long down the line. If it's a stoppage here, or a mark, that's a better result. But they haven't taken many contested marks today.
Murphy's kick to Cox was precise. And by the way, Nathan Murphy is unbeaten this year. He's played in all 11 of those 11 straight wins. So 11 and zip, his record individually on the year. Mason Cox, his kick is a turnover straight to Ollie Florent at left half back in front of the scoreboard here for the Swans. We've ticked past the half-hour mark at Sydney by 7 points here at the SCG.
Florent has a man free on the wing in Ryan Clark. He marks and plays on quickly to Mills. Open 50 for the Swans. Mills looks for Papley, tries to work Maynard under the footy. Shark by Buddy Franklin. Snaps on goal from the pocket and converts. SCG fans love that. Buddy's on the board with a snap from the pocket. The big man doing the roving. And the Swans are out to a 13-point lead.
Vintage Buddy, though, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Wow. And that's just, you just marvel at some of the things Buddy Franklin does, but so dangerous at ground level and running in on a ground ball in the pocket, you could almost mark that as a goal before it happens.
Mason Cox will be disappointed. When you take a contested mark on the wing, you expect something to happen from that because the players around him have all got to spread out. If you can move the ball quickly, you can get over the back of that spread. And he just took far too long and then ended up kicking it straight to a Sydney player. And then the return ball went to a player who was standing 5 metres in front of him. He must have been still standing there thinking about his bad kick. And then another long one and a goal to Buddy. So not great play from the big fella.
Back in the middle. Hickey, clean tap down to Mills, just thumps it inside 50. Now Reid, sprawling, marking and controlling it, and the diving attempt to his left. So a quick entry for the Swans and potentially their 5th goal coming up.
And that's what happens at the SCG. It's just a scrubbing kick. It didn't even get onto it really well, but it lands 45 metres out. And if you're playing in front, you'll get a lot of goals from those sort of things. So that centre clearance is vital here at the SCG.
What a year Sam Reid's having. Right on the quarter time siren, perhaps with the siren in his backswing. He's just shanked that out of bounds on the full. So no change to our most recent score. Sydney by 13 points here. 4-4-28 plays. Collingwood 2-3-15. Goal kickers so far. Heaney, Papley, Rampy. Yes, you heard right. Dane Rampy and Lance Franklin on the board for the Sydney Swans. While for Collingwood, they've had goals to firstly Brody Mychek and Josh Dacos in the first half hour or so here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Sydney by 13 points. Wherever you're listening on ABC Radio, News Radio and ABC Sport Digital, this is Grandstand AFL.
Lend us your ears and experience a world of audio content with ABC Listen.
A world of sound.
Like the new pop culture podcast, Schmeitgeist, decoding the biggest trends this year.
I saw a trend happening on TikTok, basically, I've never seen before.
Trash reality TV. It is my favorite thing in the world.
And for the kids, Dynodome.
T-Rex is ahead. Check out those lunges.
The ABC Listen app.
Lend me your ears.
Download it now from your app store. The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Cox and Hickey. Hickey goes again. Cox overran it. Plucked free here by Josh Carmichael. Turns it beyond defensive 50. Contest on the outer side. Comes back to Rampy. Fires on goal from 52. Dane Rampy for a rare goal. Parker. He'll swing it back infield. Overcooks the kick here for Mills. Pressure now. Ginnivan pounced on that ball to the middle of the SCG. High spiralling ball. A torpedo inside forward 50. It'll bounce loose in the pocket. Back there McCreary. He's all on his own. Slips over. They close him down. McCartan, that was Paddy, came late. Mychek slips one tackle. Snaps and goals. Stevens, he missed it. Mopped up by Rowbottom. Now Parker. Loose man now Mills to Florent. Run down by Noble. Just got the hand pass. Waited Ollie Florent. Papley comes across. Goes the fend. Couple of paws sport each other. Papley's tumbling kick goes through for a goal.
Florent has a man free on the wing in Ryan Clark. He marks and plays on quickly to Mills. Open 50 for the Swans. Mills looks for Papley. Tries to work Maynard under the footy. Shark by Buddy Franklin. Snaps on goal from the pocket and converts.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Sydney Swans by 13 points here at a sunny SCG. Another game of top 8 consequences just wrapped up. Ben Cameron keeping us across what happened between Richmond and Hawthorn at the MCG. Ben.
It certainly has wrapped up, Spriggy. Richmond have punched their ticket through to the finals. They can't miss now with 12.5 wins, so only one of Carlton and the Western Bulldogs can make the final spot in the 8. They won by 61 points, 128 to 9-13-67 over Hawthorn. Tom Lynch booted 8 goals. He's the first man to do that at the MCG in an 18-team era, or the 18-team era. That's via Sir Swamp Thing on Twitter. It's an equal career high for Tom Lynch, the second time he's done that in his career. It was the third term where they set it all up, 9 goals to 1, the highest scoring term of the year for Richmond. They booted 9-2-56 in that third term. Shea Bolton, he did have a little bit of an issue in the second term. Such an important player for Richmond. He pointed at his sternum as he came from the ground, but played out the match and seemed fine. So Richmond have won 128 to 9-13-67 over the Hawks. They'll be returning to the finals after a year off. Spriggy.
Thank you, Ben. Sydney by 13 points here. Later on, Essendon put at Docklands. We'll get Ben to keep us across that as well. In the meantime, our experts here at the SCG are Nathan Burke and Alicia Eva.
Well, Berkey, I think what I'm saying is, to be honest, at the start of the game, I thought Sydney would be on top at stoppage and they'd get the ball going inside 50 a lot more. Collingwood actually won the first 4 centre bounce clearances, and that is crucial on a day like today when they're not able to move the ball as easily through the corridor like they've been able to do the last month. So centre bounce is crucial for the Magpies. I think Scott Pendlebury's leading the way with the 5 clearances. If, and we saw that late in the quarter, if Sydney are getting it inside 50, they're locking it inside 50 and they're scoring, I think, at 53% per inside 50, which is quite good. So I think stoppage is actually not a bad outcome for Collingwood today until they can get some more uncontested ball movement going.
Yeah, it's 9 shots from 7 in inside 50s for the Swans. They're doing it quite easily. They've had 68 to 39 more uncontested possessions. So they're just having more time with the footy. They're having a lot more marks. They're having a lot more ability to hit up free targets and run past for the handballs than what Collingwood are doing. And as we know, Collingwood love to get that ball back through the middle of the ground, and the Swans are doing an outstanding job of denying that. We saw Pendlebury try to get the ball in there once. It was a turnover, ended up in a goal to Sydney. But since then, they've been pretty much gun shy. It did come out through the middle once through a bit of a turnover. Ginnivan kicked the ball forward and Mychek ended up with a goal. So that was a goal through the middle. But apart from that, they haven't been able to do it. So we spoke before the game about which team can get their particular game style going. And at the moment, I think Sydney Swans are far closer to the way that they want to play the game than what Collingwood are.
Some stats to quarter time. James Rowbottom said during the week, if I'm not tackling, I'm not bringing much value to the team. Not sure that's the case, James. 8 disposals so far, 4 contested possessions, 3 inside 50s, but 4 tackles, which is what he does as good as anyone in the competition. Isaac Heaney has 8 disposals as well and a goal. Luke Parker has 8. Ryan Clark with 7 for the Pies. Pendlebury and Lipinski both with 6.
We'll head down to Glenn Lauder on the boundary shortly. Second term underway here at the SCG as Sweet Caroline. It's bellowed out around the SCG grandstands. Pendlebury gathers the football here to start the second term. Magpies with the first clearance. Jamie Elliott, clever tap down here for Nick Dacos. Breaking inside forward 50. Ginnivan no beaten to it by Paddy McCartan. He takes the intercept between fullback and centre half back for the Swans. Neat little kick up the line for Luke Parker. Shields his eyes from the sun and sends it back members side for Hickey. Strong contested grab with Maynard coming late. Hickey at left half back here for the Sydney Swans. Home side leads by 13. Hickey's kick up the line here. Reid down at ground level now for Mills. Collected by Pendlebury. Slung to ground, the umpire says, holding the ball. So the Magpies skipper rewarded.
Just hesitated there a little bit, Mills, and Pendlebury pounced.
A recent 350 gamer, Scott Pendlebury. Dummies the hand pass, goes by foot instead. Preferred left boot. Again, Paddy McCartan is unmarked and takes the mark on the half-back line here for the Swans. Although the umpire spotted another free kick here going the Swans' way with Blakey. So the Swans keep possession just inside defensive 50 at the Randwick end.
Just the third disposal coming up for Nick Blakey in the bright green boots. Sends it up to the wing looking for Hickey. Pendlebury gets a hand to it. Parker wins it back for the Swans. Inboard to Chad Warner. Looping handball to centre half forward. Here's Hayward, has plenty of options. Sends it out wide looking for McInerney. It sits up nicely for him in the pocket. Handball over the top for Papley. He'll snap on goal with the left, but it's across the face. Tom Papley rarely wastes chances like that, but he has done. Swans lead out to 14 points.
4-5 plays 2-3. We'll head boundary side shortly.
He did have Buddy Franklin all alone in the goal square for the handball over the top.
Noble marks the kick out. Down to you, Glenn, on the boundary.
Yeah, obviously, Berkey just mentioned that handball over the top to Buddy Franklin. That's exactly what John Longmire is saying right next to me. He's saying it should have been a goal with that hand pass.
Is that him we can hear down there? There's animation we can hear.
I'm trying to bring a beep with me because you mentioned early in the first quarter he was pretty calm, but yeah, he's starting to get into it now.
So we can actually hear a special feed of Glenn's effects from downstairs in our cans so he can talk to us. I don't think the wider audience can hear that, but there is a lot of colour from the Swans bench downstairs. They lead by 14 points here. 3 gone second term at the SCG, which is still experiencing a bright sunny day here in the Harbour City. Crisp wrapped up by Rowbottom, and the umpire will blow it up 60 out from the Collingwood goal.
I was wondering if the listeners at home could hear that. I thought we were just going to let it slide.
Hickey wins it out of the ruck cleanly. His kick though is up in the air. A chance for Jamie Elliott, who's been quiet so far to get hands on the football. He does, but he's wrapped up in a strong tackle. Elliott just at 2 disposals so far. Hasn't troubled the scoreboard just yet. Swans leading by 14 points. Right half forward the ball is though for Collingwood. Pendlebury's handball on the ground goes towards the 50. Rowbottom's there. He's wrapped up by Sidebottom. The Bottom's getting involved.
Bottom's up.
Just outside 50 for Collingwood. Cameron palms it down looking for Pendlebury. Elliott's still there, as is Rowbottom. That's the 6th tackle for James Rowbottom already in this game. He's just a machine in those contests, isn't he?
Ball in the air. Hickey can lay it down into the path of Heaney, but Chris beat him to it, though, for the Magpies. Didn't get possession, though. Hayward spins through a tackle, shares it with Lloyd. Now Paddy McCartan nurses the kick across the goal mouth here for the wingman. McInerney comes up the line now. A little too deep, the kick for Heaney, picked off by Quainer. Swats away the would-be tackle of Hayward. Comes back inside 50 here for the Pies. Over the top, Fox on Jamie Elliott. At ground level, Mills can get the hand pass back to Paddy McCartan. Off one step, thumps it back from whence it came. Reid down for Clark, and now Hickey can tumble it back infield for Franklin. Spills the chest mark. Warner breaking by. Slips the tackle of Noble. 40 from goal. Pulls it short. Hayward marks top of the goal square and can thump it through. So the Swans make something of that. 5-5-35 Sydney. Collingwood 2-3-15. Margin 20. 4.5 gone second term here on Grandstand AFL. Repeating earlier at the MCG, Richmond winners over Hawthorn by 61 points. The Tigers will play finals in season 2022.
I think someone's got to be a little bit more accountable for Paddy McCartan down back. He's too easily coming off the Collingwood forward. I'm not sure who it is. I'll closely keep an eye out here, but he's just mopping up down back, and he's going at 82% efficiency by foot. So he's just racking it up down there, and it's just kick-starting the ball movement for the Swans.
He's picking up a smaller player a lot of the time. You expect him to go to one of the talls, but he's picking up a smaller player, and the smaller player doesn't go in for those long high balls, and he just says, well, I'm going to back myself to mark them and not let the ball come to ground where you might be dangerous. And so his play is not going to the high one, and Paddy is.
Swans making a little statement. Early stages of the second quarter here at the SCG, leading by 20 points. McCartan does well in the contest, but McCreary kept his feet. Won it back. Handball over the top to Ginnivan. He's wrapped up strongly by Jake Lloyd. There was no head-high contact there. There was no time for Ginnivan to even think about ducking the head. He was wrapped up quickly. We'll have a ball up. Inside attack for Collingwood. Hickey palms it down. Ginnivan's there. Handball back to Dacos, that's Josh Dacos, snaps it into attack. Paddy McCartan tries to snap it clear. Picked up by Jamie Elliott though, couldn't get clean hands on it. Tom Hickey does. Handball to Warner, who just pops it up to the wing. Franklin came out to meet it. Ryan Clark got in his way a little bit. Cops some heavy contact. He's all okay though. We'll have a boundary throw in near to the Swans bench. About 70 out from Collingwood's goal.
Swans with a game high 20-point lead. 6.5 travelled second term. Back in it comes. Hickey tussles up with Cameron. Down for Lloyd, competes with Ginnivan. Plays the follow-up tackle on Cameron. Had time to get rid of it and didn't, so it's holding the ball. Great pressure from Jake Lloyd.
No one ever really knows how long is too long in those situations where they dance around for a good 360.
The bigger man had time, Darcy Cameron. Lloyd finds Mills, raking right boot, high towards the paint of 50 now, floating across. Strong intercept grab taken by Maynard. Now on his preferred left boot, across the half-back line for Hoskin Elliott. Had those flu concerns during the week, along with a few teammates. Now to the outer side. My check marks on the outer wing. They're streaking forward in black and white jumpers. He comes back into the corridor now inside 50. Couple of Swans defenders go up. At the drop, Parker can share it back to Goulden. Tumbles it back beyond defensive 50. Franklin is outnumbered down there, up in the forward line.
Murphy watched it closely and had Maynard in support. He goes inboard into the corridor with a very good kick to Chris. But now Hoskin Elliott under pressure. He looks for Myercheck inside 50. It'll sit up nicely for him. Well, no, it won't. McCartan's there. He wins it back. Handball to his brother and Tom. Good tackle on him by Jamie Elliott. Will have a boundary throw in inside 50. A bit of push and shoving going on inside attack for Collingwood. Had a good opportunity there to mark it in attack, but the kick from Hoskin Elliott was just too far in front of Myercheck.
Maynard's opened the game up twice with some really good kicks into that centre corridor, but they just haven't been able to capitalise going forward.
8 gone second term. Swans by 20. Rowbottom's hand pass to Warner, and he can clear only as far as Noble. Took a clean mark. 60 from goal. Wilson goes back inside the arc now for the Magpies. Early jump there from Johnson at the drop. Hoskin Elliott's kick was smothered in the back of Hickey. Hoskin Elliott lays the tackle on McInerney, and the umpire says, let's ball it up. 15 out from Collingwood's goal. Randwick, end of the SCG. Want to keep your texts coming. 0437 774 774. We'll read a few of those at half time. And indeed, as we wrap things up later on. But there's still a live game of football here. Swans by 20 points. Now it might be a bit of blood rule. Hoskin Elliott trotting off the ground.
He was subbed out of the game last week, Will Hoskin Elliott, in the third quarter with a hip problem. Only had the 4 disposals to his name. Was able to recover to play in this game, but it's taking a while to get off the SCG, and the Swans fans don't like it. Pat Lipinski will make his way onto the ground for Will Hoskin Elliott. So the last few minutes by Collingwood's been a bit better, still trailing by 20 points though.
Yeah, but I think it's been off the back of better ball movement. You mentioned Maynard before. He went inside the corridor twice, and then also Noble getting involved, taking an intercept mark there. I think the ability to intercept mark across your forward line is critical.
On the stoppage, Hickey and Paddy McCartan. Now Robertham goes to clear, and his kick is sprayed out of bounds on the full. So Collingwood back in possession, right on the junction of 50 at right half forward. It'll be in the hands of Josh Dacos. But he has options aplenty in that attacking zone for the Magpies. They trail by 20 points. Dacos can set it up. Looking for a fly-up. Myercheck wins it down here for Carmichael. Slams boot to ball. Misses right-hand side for a minor score. Pies 2-4-16. Sydney 5-5-35. 10 going second term. Glenn Lauder on the boundary. What's the problem area for Will Hoskin Elliott?
Yeah, it was a blood rule. Spriggy had some blood coming out of his left nostril after a collision, so just going up and getting fixed up, he'll come back on. And Mason Cox is getting ready to come back on for Collingwood, as well as Isaac Heaney and Sam Reid have a breather for Sydney.
Nick Blakey has a bounce, running the ball out of his own defensive goal square, then handballs it to Chad Warner. Sends it up the wing, the Swans dynamo. Murphy was able to affect the contest in defence for Collingwood as Franklin crashed the pack with Goulden. The kick in ball looking for Crisp is ill-directed because Crisp fell over. Hickey can gather it. Strong tackle on Tom Papley. Is able to bounce off it though is the Swans forward, and handball back to McCartan. Out wide to Florent, who marks overhead. Right half forward for Sydney in front of Lipinski. Now puts it into a dangerous area into attack. McDonald is there and marking. Big Logan McDonald timed his jump superbly, took the pack mark. He'll kick from 20 metres out in the slide angle.
Can be a cruel game sometimes. I think Pendlebury picked the right option to go inside on that occasion, and Crisp just fell over at the wrong time, and Sydney are punishing.
So Logan McDonald, pick 4 in the 2020 draft. 12 goals this season in 13 games, trying to establish his place in the Swans lineup. A huge talent. Can he kick a goal early in the second quarter? That's a poor miss. tried to drive it low, but he's pulled it through for a behind. He should be converting those. Swans lead by 20 points. They are 5-6-36. Collingwood 2-4-16.
Quick kick out here from the Pies. Josh Dacos lays off the hand pass to Noble. Comes up the line now. Darcy Cameron had Rampy in from behind with the spoil. At the drop, McCreary. It was a high tackle and play on here. Advantage played to the Pies. They go inside 50 through Nick Dacos. Contest down there. Elliott was beaten through the air. Still alive though for the Pies. Lipinski receives it in front of the boundary line and he is tumbled over by Robbie Fox. So we'll throw it back in. 40 around from the Collingwood goal at the Randwick end. And Dane Rampy as well having to come off for the blood rule. He's also got some claret around his nasal area.
It's a good period here from Collingwood. They're getting sort of field ascendancy. The ball's up their end more often than the Sydney end, but they just haven't been able to capitalise. Swans are just defending so well, and marks inside Collingwood's forward 50 are few and far between.
Earlier, Richmond beat Hawthorn by 61 at the MCG. It's the Swans by 20 here. Back in it comes. Darcy Cameron lays it down. Overrun by Ginnivan. Came off his shins for Clark. Now Parker's hand pass wide for Ollie Florent. Neat little kick to find Goulden. Just thought of left half back.
Goulden drives it up the wing looking for Franklin. He was felled behind play though by McCreary. So it'll be a downfield free kick for the Swans. It'll go the way of Buddy.
It's a free kick that's become very, very touchy on these days.
Buddy gets around Darcy Moore, has a bounce and then just chips one over the top intelligently to Ryan Clark. He played on when he didn't have to though. So Collingwood wins it back inside defensive 50. Carmichael with the clearing kick. He didn't look at his options though, and Sam Reid can mark on the wing for Sydney.
So Reid's kick, driven long inside forward 50. At the drop, Quainer spills it out the back, tackled by McDonald. The umpire circling. He's going to say it's a free kick for a push in the back. McDonald into the back of Quainer, so the Pies defender will have the free kick. 25 out from defensive goal, Paddington end. Sydney by 20 points here still. 13 and a half gone, quarter number 2.
Quainer goes short to Nathan Murphy in the pocket. Enjoying a breakout season is Nathan Murphy. Up to the wing for Cameron. Flying across the pack though is Paddy McCartan, who is making his presence felt here on a big day at the SCG. He's been superb at centre half back for the Swans, who lead by 20 points. We'll have a boundary throw in next to the interchange gates.
Collingwood need to find a way, as Alicia mentioned, they need to quell him. They need to try and drag him back. They need to put a player on him because he's having too big an influence in defence.
Cameron spun around the tackle, pushed off the kick. Nick Dacos tried to come through. Mills picks it up here, shares it with one, a little 1-2 by hand. Mills kick tumbled up the line. Back with the flight, Pendlebury. Worried out of it though in the end. Had some support side bottom, but they pile in now. Lloyd for the Swans is there. Maynard couldn't quite reach and grab it. McDonald hand pass to Heaney, and now Franklin from the angle, deep in the left forward pocket, tumbles it towards goal. It misses near side. Minus score Sydney, 5-7-37. The Pies are 2-4-16. 14 and a half played second term here at the SCG.
Pies go up the corridor. It's a dangerous kick. Carmichael tries to get to it. Swans almost win it back through Tom McCartan. Lipinski, though, gathers the football and sends it out wide to Bianco, who was the late inclusion for Jordan DeGoey. Pulled out with a hip flexor. His kick over the top of Lipinski. Gets inside 50 at left half forward for the Magpies, but his kick is an ordinary one, though, and Nick Blakey is able to mark at the top of his own goal square.
They're moving the ball so much better this quarter, Collingwood, but you're right, Berkey, they are just not capitalising going inside 50, just wasting opportunities.
Glenn Lauder on the boundary.
Yeah, just an update on Will Hoskin-Elliott. Still being worked on by the doctors. I reckon he's probably got a broken nose. I'd say he'll come back, but there's plenty of concern for him in the Collingwood dugout. And while I was looking at Will Hoskin-Elliott, I lost sight of Dane Rampy on the Sydney bench, and an eagle-eyed Swans fan right behind me let me know that he's head down to down the race to the rooms. So obviously a bit of work on Dane Rampy.
Okay, so a couple of blood rules for either side. Swans by 21 points here.
Nothing wrong with the crooked nose. Tell them down there.
Cox competes with Sam Reid and the side bottom, although Parker got there first, picked his pocket off to Goulden. Now Stevens comes up the line here for the Swans. It pitches just in the field of play and bounced out of bounds for a throw-in. 65 around from the Swans goal right half forward in front of the scoreboard, which shows Sydney 5-7-37, Collingwood 2-4-16. You're with Brett Sprigg, Daniel Garb, Nathan Burke, Alicia Eva, Glenn Lauder on Grandstand AFL. Great to have your company right across the national broadcaster.
Two of the best tackling sides in the comp, but the Swans lead that count 29-16. More importantly, they lead on the scoreboard by 21 points. 16 minutes mark of the second quarter. Franklin tries to leap and mark inside 50, couldn't gather it. Pendlebury is tackled well by Goulden. He's tackled unfairly though. In fact, he was caught high by Goulden. So a free kick to the Magpies legend, the man who has played more games in the famous black and white stripes than anyone else, Scott Pendlebury, inside defensive 50 for Collingwood. Directs traffic, like he so often does, now sends it up to the wing. Cameron leapt up to meet it, couldn't mark it cleanly though. We'll have a boundary throw in on the outer side.
Big fella's got to take those. He's out in front. He's got to play behind him, yeah, but you've got to mark those. If you want to be a really good, tall player in the league, Max Gordon wouldn't have dropped that. It's pretty much an uncontested mark. So that's he's been good for them, but he needs to go to that next level.
Dane Rampy has re-emerged from the rooms, but he's still showing signs of discomfort on the bench. Ginnivan here down to Maynard. Kicks crossfield here for the Magpies. On the bounce, it sits up down there for Josh Dacos. He works his way around Mills. Comes left, right, now back to the left. Mills keeps chasing. Dacos gets the kick away. High inside forward 50. Reaching down there, Mychek. Ginnivan, his head ripped off by Paddy McCartan, and the umpire says, yep, that's a free kick. The most talked about free kick receiver or non-receiver in the AFL, Jack Ginnivan. On this occasion, it is a free kick going the way of the Pies. 40 out from goal, slight angle to the right. That was there.
That was there. It was Paddy McCartan almost diving over another player to get hold of him. The thing that I don't like is he still lifts the arm up and the shoulder up. It was unnecessary to do that. You would have got a free kick without doing that, but that just muddies the water slightly.
Jack Ginnivan, the rising star non back in round 6. Will connect with a set shot from 40 out. Very important kick this for the Pies. He doesn't let them down. They've got their third of the afternoon. 3-4-22 Collingwood. Sydney 5-7-37. Margin back to 15. Approaching time on second term. Down to Glenn Lauder on the boundary.
Yeah, Dane Rampy back into the action for Sydney. Just a new Guernsey as he headed down to the race. And just looking over, Will Hoskin-Elliott still getting treated by the Collingwood medical staff.
And Jack Ginnivan copping plenty of boos from the Sydney Swans faithful after kicking a goal from a high free kick, which of course is, as Brett Spriggs said, the most discussed free kick in the AFL at the moment.
Just having another look at it here. Paddy McCartan did get him high, so there's no doubt about that one. So just a bit of a legacy of the last couple of weeks. Other boos, but badly needed goal. Really badly needed goal by Collingwood because they've had some good periods of play. If Swans went down and got another one, it would just really just turn that dagger.
Wonderful finish from Ginnivan. Swans leading by 15 points. Josh Dacos with a handball looking for Carmichael. Well done by Hayward to scrap away for Sydney. Jack Crisp is with him in the middle of the SCG. Will have a ball up. Sydney 5-7-37. The Pies 3-4-22. Here's Rowbottom snapping Sydney deep into attack over the head of McDonald. Franklin's there. He's stalking Darcy Moore. Moore is to watch it closely over the boundary line next to the behind post. We'll have a boundary throw in deep into attack for the Swans.
Approaching time on in this second term. Back in it comes. Reid competes with Mason Cox. Down the side bottom. Hand pass fired out here for Carmichael. Now Lipinski can rebound them beyond defensive 50. It skids loose out the back here for Mychek. Beaten to it, though, by Tom McCartan. Off the deck, the hand pass to Robbie Fox. Turns it away towards half forward. This kick was some distance, but it's marked by Murphy. Takes the intercept chest mark here for the Magpies at centre-half back. Sydney still by 15 points as Murphy flares it wide to the outer side. Out there for Josh Dacos.
He finds Lipinski. Pies trying to play on quickly. Lipinski will guide it to the 50, looking for Cameron over his head. Rowbottom's there, but he's won a free kick as Darcy Cameron against Dane Rampy. Big size mismatch there.
Oh, that could be 50.
And that might be 50 for the ball not being returned to Darcy Cameron. Umpire lets it go, though.
That was very lenient. He just said, oh, you didn't mean that. It was just a bad throw, but a bad throw is a bad throw.
I think the umpire was deep in conversation with Dane Rampy, so may have missed that.
Cameron doesn't like himself from this distance, so he goes short to John Noble, who's on a
10 metres further out.
More severe angle, but now he's found Braden Maynard, who can play on and guide it to the top of the square. Coming out to mid, it was Johnson. A couple of Swans run into each other. Blakey paddles it away. Bianco's there, picked up by McCreary. His kick is smothered by Chad Warner. Warner in his own defensive 50 in the pocket is tackled by 3 Magpies, and they shovel him over the boundary line. We'll have a boundary throw in the right forward pocket for Collingwood, who trail by 15 points.
I was wondering why Sydney looked a bit fragile then. It's Paddy McCartan's off the ground. He's been off the ground for the last few minutes.
Get to Glenn shortly. Umpire tumbles it back in. Stoppage inside 50 here for the Magpies. Cox out of the ruck. Follows up here. Wrapped up by Reid. The umpire says that's balled up again. Down to you, Glenn, on the boundary.
Yeah, Will Hoskin-Elliott looks okay, but Jack Ginnivan, it looks it might be a hip flexor on his left side. Of course, that brought Jordan De Goey undone.
Cox's kick smothered here. It'll bounce out inside 50 now. As tackled down there, Nick Dacos. The umpire will ball it up. It was Ash Johnson who got first hands to that ball. So another stoppage inside 50 for the Magpies. They trail by 15 points. Cameron wins it down. Elliott into a 2-man tackle. Reid and Warner greeted him. And we'll ball it up again, 25 out.
Swans are doubling Collingwood on the tackles, 35-17, more than doubling them now. Their pressure superb. Warner tries to spin out of a McCreary tackle. Handball only as far as side bottom, picked up by Elliott now. Weiswell tackled by Goulden. It's high pressure football at the moment in a high stakes game at the SCG, and it's locked up again inside 50 for the Pies.
Can't say it's great football to watch, but it's tight.
Cameron down as far as Rowbottom, who's wrapped up. He's taken high, ran straight into the hip of Darcy Cameron, so a free kick for a high tackle going the Swans' way. Out in space, here's Jack McInerney. On the bounce, can send it wide for Papley. Competes through the air with Noble. Follows up at ground level, does well. Papley on the left boot, goes high inside forward 50. McDonald down there. Wins it down here for Isaac Heaney. Darcy Moore has work to do at ground level as well. The umpire will ball it up. This time 30 out from the Swans goal, Paddington end. Home side leads by 15 points here at the SCG. 23 travelled second term.
He's been well held this quarter. Isaac Heaney has only had it the one time.
Hickey with a clean tap down to Papley. He couldn't gather, but he does very well on the second effort with the tackle to ride his opponent over the boundary line. So a boundary throw in. That was Darcy Moore. Inside 50 for the Swans.
And the Pies have done a lot of things right. They just haven't been able to score.
Sydney by 15 points. 23.5 gone in the second quarter. Hickey looking for Heaney. It's a free kick going the way of Collingwood and the way of the big ruckman in Darcy Cameron against Tom Hickey. So a chance for them to clear defensive 50.
Cameron, the former Swan, played one game in Sydney. As they come beyond defensive 50 through Howe. Making the contest late, Tom McCartan. Overrun by Quainer. One away by Logan McDonald. Now it comes back here for the Sydney Swans again. Rampy to Goulden. Loads up inside 50. Kick was too deep for Franklin. 3 Magpies go up in defence. Hand pass down here to Cameron again, who can clear beyond defensive 50. But Tom McCartan slides into mark now for Sydney, just forward of halfway. So they can thrust their way forward again here, the home side. 15 points there to lead. Long to the hot spot they go, and Jeremy Howe controls it with the intercept mark. A pack grab. He beat Franklin, among others, to control it here for the Magpies at full back.
Those long bombs aren't going to work into the Sydney forward line because Franklin doesn't take those and Reid doesn't take those, and you've got Murphy down there, you've got Howe down there, you've got Moore down there. They're not going to get outmarked on those big long bombs.
Howe's kick is an accurate one to find Bianco on the wing. He sends it to centre half forward. Myercheck will fly, but Hickey stood his ground and gathered it for Sydney. Looking for Parker. Lots of Magpies around the football though. There's Nick Blakey trying to burrow his way through. Does so successfully. Side bottom gets hands to it though for Collingwood. Quainer can't pick it up. McDonald is wrapped up in the tackle. Umpire lets play go on. Crisp with a high ball. In dispute now inside the middle of the SCG. Falls the way of Mason Cox. Handball back to Darcy Cameron. High kick inside 50. Johnson's there through the hands of Rampy. He's under pressure. Slaps it to Rowbottom in support in the back pocket. And Rowbottom can clear. And he finds Logan McDonald and the Swans can play on.
He wheels and goes quickly to find Heaney, the milestone man on the outer wing. Shows some pace around Jeremy Howe. Attempted smother. Heaney goes long inside forward 50 and finds the chest of Lance Franklin.
That was a really tough kick. He had Papley short, and the Collingwood defender thought, well, the best kick to do what most players would do would kick that short one to Papley, but not Heaney. He off a step around the corner, kicked a long one to Franklin inside 50.
He's 45 out here, Franklin. Probably very similar part of the ground as where he kicked that famous 1,000th goal, Garby, some weeks ago now, some months ago now. Just seeing the reverse angle of the kick on the monitor, it does feel a bit familiar. Maybe a slightly tougher angle here for Buddy Franklin. Opens up the angle, connects from 48. It's high across the face. Won't be a goal, this one. Knocked away here to Josh Dacos. Sobottom mops up as well. Shares it with Crisp, who comes beyond offensive 50 for the Pies. Cox went up too early. At the drop there, Robbie Fox for the Sydney Swans. Draws the player, hand pass to Stevens, sends the home side back inside 50. Hickey gets set, so too Reid. Papley lurking at ground level, overrun by Isaac Quainer. McDonald goes in again for the Swans, shares it with Parker, who can snap on the left from 35 out and tumble it, not quite there. Moore gets back with the flight to prevent any chance of a score. Sydney still by 15, 27 go on second term.
Luke Parker up to 15 disposals. Rowbottom 14 and 7 tackles. He's been excellent as they work it to Isaac Quainer in the back pocket. Quickly down to Glenn Lauder on the boundary.
Oscar Elliott was about to come back on, but he's now sat back down. And Jack and Evan is headed down to the rooms, and Callum Brown has been involved in the discussions as well. So they'll probably work on him until half-time and then throughout the break. But don't be surprised if we don't see Jack and Evan again today.
Lovely leap by Ash Johnson on the wing for Collingwood to take a contested mark. Noble's handball, though, is less than convincing, looking for side bottom, and Rampy's able to intervene. We'll have a boundary throw in just forward of the wing for Collingwood, who trail by 15 points, and that's a worry. The injury to Will Hoskin-Elliott.
Umpire tosses it back in.
Jack Ginnivan, sorry.
Down to Carmichael. Rowbottom. Hickey. Kick goes up in the air. Mills back with the flight. It's bounced off the bonce of Nick Dacos and goes out of bounds for a throw-in, this time closer to the Collingwood bench.
Ginnivan with the 7 disposals and a goal to his name, so they'd want his unpredictability back on the field, would Collingwood.
Back in it comes. Hickey and Cameron, front of the logo. Sidebottom's kick tumbled out to the boundary line. They want deliberate, and they will get it. So a Sydney free kick from left half back.
I just don't know about that rule. It just loses me completely. There's no way in a million years he was trying to get that ball out of bounds or even close to it.
Rampy's under pressure. A couple of Pies tackle him, but his handball to Mills. And now
class.
Nick Dacos with class gets around a couple of tackles. He's kicked to the top of the square. Well intervened by Tom McCartan, though. Floating across the back of Mason Cox. Was able to take a mark in front of his own goal line and now goes short to Jake Lloyd. Brilliant work, Tom McCartan.
Sydney have just dropped off a little bit of their blueprint ball movement here. They'll find an uncontested mark here, but credit to Collingwood, they've put pressure on the ball carrier. I think Sydney are just going to try and take a bit of the sting out of the game until halftime.
Drive it long beyond defensive 50 here, the Swans. Out to a contest. It's off the hands of McDonald and out for a throw-in. Earlier, Richmond beat Hawthorn by 61 points, so the Tigers have punched their ticket through to the finals this year. Ball in here. Josh Dacos, beaten to it by Parker. Kick tumbled away by Florent, and that will be all she wrote through the first half. Sydney controlling things to the tune of 15 points. The Magpies certainly will not go away. Goal scorers so far in this game, by the way, Sydney 5-7-37, Collingwood 3-4-22. The scoreline, goal kickers for the home side firstly, Heaney, Papley, Franklin, Rampy, and one more for the Swans that I could be missing. Will Hayward, I beg your pardon. Will Hayward also on the board in that second term, a recent goal scorer. Meanwhile, for the Pies, singles to Josh Dacos, Jack Ginnivan, who's off the field injured, so we'll keep an eye on that, and down to Glenn Lauder shortly, and Brody Myercheck also with an early goal for the Magpies in the first term. Swans by 15 points here. Your experts on Grandstand AFL are Alicia Eva and Nathan Burke.
I'll go first, Berkey. Look, the thing, I've just been writing down a few notes on the Magpies that quarter because I think they they started playing a little bit more their own game, what we've seen in the last month, and that was kick-started by, I think, Scott Pendlebury and Josh Dacos, actually, and Maynard moving the ball inside the corridor early in that quarter. And I think from D50 to about 60 out, they look really slick, but they could not find a target inside 50. So whether it's good pressure on that final kick going inside, or Sydney have just had too much time to set up behind the ball. Paddy McCartan has been a bit of a brick wall down there, and he's been rebounding with great effect, going at, I think, maybe 80% efficiency. So a better style of play from the Maggies that quarter, but just need to be more efficient inside 50.
I think that pretty much goes for both teams too, Alicia, the way we're looking at it. Far too many bomb kicks inside 50. Both teams have got tall defenders who are really good in that situation. You've got Howe and Moore and Murphy up one end, and Swans have got the McCartan boys and Rampy. They're really good when the ball is in the air getting bombed in. Neither team is going to jump up. They haven't got the forwards that are going to jump up and take those really big contested marks yet. That's just the main form of entry we're seeing from both teams, especially the Swans in that last 7 or 8 minutes. I reckon they bomb the ball in at least half a dozen times. So when they look dangerous is when they're able to get the ball into a little bit of space, get the ball quickly in through the middle of the ground to the far side of the ground, and just at least get the ball into some form of space. I reckon the Heaney went out of the game a little bit then, because the only way the Swans got the ball in was bombing it, and he had no space even when the ball did go in there, whereas early doors in that first quarter, they were getting the ball in a lot quicker, even if it was on the ground into space where he can do a lot of work. So I think that up that forward 50 entries for both teams is going to be really important. And you mentioned Maynard. He stands out because he had 2 kicks that were attacking through the corridor. They ended up mucking up both of those forward entries, but it was almost in the box. We went, oh, here we go. Here's something exciting happening here through the middle of the ground, and then it went dead again. The fact that we can pinpoint 2 for the whole half just goes to show how often it's actually happening. And I think both teams, give them credit, they're blocking up that centre corridor a lot. As soon as the ball turns over, players are repositioning inside that centre corridor, so neither team can use it. But I want to see them at least take a few more risks and get the ball quickly through there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think late in that quarter we saw Nick Dacos take the game on a little bit. A couple of energised handballs off a slow play. So he's running past and receiving the handball, driving his legs and just getting a bit creative. And I think you're right, we probably haven't seen some of that creativity from some of the Swannies halfbacks either. So, I think we've certainly got an exciting second half underway, but I think it's going to start with teams taking a few more risks and trying to actually move the ball a little bit through run and carry, and then finding a better option inside 50.
Yeah, even the Swans, like Lance doesn't take big pack marks, and they're kicking up, and Reed doesn't take big pack marks either. So get it in there, put it out in front of them, let them use their pace and their ground skills. That's where the goals are going to come from, and that brings Papley into play as well. Yeah,
that chaos ball inside 50, and you spoke about Heaney already, but with that bouncing ball inside 50, and it's not just Heaney or Papley, but we've seen Franklin kick a goal today already from that chaos situation.
The tackling count was always going to be interesting. Pies, third best tackling team coming into the game. Swans, second best. Sydney, 38 tackles in the first half. Collingwood, 20. So they are winning that category convincingly, are Sydney. Rowbottom has 7 tackles. Mills with 6. Lloyd with 5. Big Sam Reid with 5 tackles. In terms of disposals, Parker has 16 touches. Rowbottom, 14. 8 contested possessions. 4 clearances. He's been excellent for the Swans, as has Callum Mills with 14 touches. Paddy McCartan, you've spoken about, Alicia, 13 disposals and 3 marks. For the Magpies, Pendlebury has 12, Josh Dacos with 11, Crisp has 10. Jamie Elliott, very quiet, only the 2 disposals in the first half.
Just a goal apiece in that second term for either side. So the Swans here by 15 points, at one stage led by as much as 21 in that second term. Sydney 5-7-37. The Magpies are 3-4-22. And the cheer you can hear is for Josh Kennedy, who announced his retirement during the week. Of course, still holds a glimmer of hope to get back into the side as they make their finals assault. But a hamstring concern has given cause to announce his retirement, which I think we all saw coming anyway. But what a servant he's been at this great club, and he's doing a lap of one now for the sellout crowd which has assembled here at the SCG for this blockbuster game anyway. There's also a couple of Sydney Swans old boys down in front of the old grandstands. I can spy our good friend Neil Cordy down there as well, and the Swans today celebrating 40 years since the relocation from South Melbourne, 40 years in the Harbour City. 15 points is the halftime margin. Earlier at the MCG, Richmond beat Hawthorn by 61 points. Tom Lynch kicked 8 goals. Dion Prestia had 30 disposals, while Tom Mitchell had 32 touches, a game high there for the Hawks midfielder. We'll also keep you across Essendon and Port Adelaide at Docklands, but just as far as the finals picture, that does mean Richmond are in. They can't miss the finals. The Bulldogs next week must beat the Hawks and also rely on Collingwood beating Carlton to make it. So it's either Carlton or Bulldogs effectively for that final spot in the 8, and from there it's just a matter of the order, and we'll have all that sorted out next week in the final round of the home and away season as well. You're on Grandstand AFL. Swans by 15 points here. Half-time at the SCG. Back with the second half shortly, but right now it's time for us to head to the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Jean Kennedy. The ABC has confirmed that a gunman has fired shots at Canberra Airport this afternoon, with people being forced to evacuate. Chantal Alkuri reports.
A Qantas captain of a Sydney to Canberra flight has told passengers the AFP is treating the area as a crime scene after gunshots were fired near the security screening entrance in the departures hall. He says no one is believed to be injured, but information is limited. A man has been apprehended this afternoon by police inside the terminal as the AFP conducts a security sweep of the airport.
New South Wales police have labelled the killing of 2 women in Sydney southwest as an assassination. A 48-year-old woman died at the scene in Revesby, while a 39-year-old woman died in hospital a short time later. It's been revealed a 16-year-old girl and a 20-year-old man were in the car as well at the time of last night's shooting. Both were unharmed. Detective Inspector Danny Doherty says it appears the shooting was targeted, with the older woman known to police.
This is an appalling attack on 2 women. Have lost their lives in a planned murder and assassination, really, that's happened in a public street in Sydney. It's not acceptable by any standards.
Neighbours of a man who died in a house fire in Adelaide's north overnight have described the frantic moments when they could see the house go up in flames. Firefighters arrived at the blaze in Paraka this morning to find the home already well alight. The body of the 89-year-old man who lived there was found inside. 14-year-old neighbour Sandra says she heard the fire from her house.
I could hear lots of screaming and shouting, and then out of nowhere this massive bang, and then I woke up my parents, and then we just looked through the window, and then there was just the whole house was on flames, and all we could see was everyone running and trying to see if there was anyone inside and calling for help.
Police don't believe the fire is suspicious. US prosecutors say the stabbing attack on the acclaimed author Salman Rushdie was premeditated and targeted. The man accused of carrying out the attack has pleaded not guilty to charges of attempted murder and assault, as the BBC's Nomia Iqbal reports.
The suspect in custody is 24-year-old Hadi Matar from New Jersey, whose parents migrated from Lebanon. Reports say that a law enforcement review of his social media accounts found he was sympathetic to the causes of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, a major military and political force in Iran. It was in 1989 when Iran's spiritual leader at the time placed a death sentence on Sir Salman. His book, The Satanic Verses, was considered an insult to Islam and led to global riots which killed 45 people. He went into hiding for nearly a decade.
The Queensland Government says state-of-the-art protective vests will be rolled out to every frontline police officer. The vests have been developed in Queensland to offer the best possible protection from knives, spikes and bullets. Police Minister Mark Ryan says the government is buying 12,000 of the vests, which will be distributed over the next 12 months. Mr Ryan says the investment reflects the government's commitment to officer safety.
It's actually unique in the world. It's been developed here locally. It will be rolled out very quickly to our front line and supports obviously the safety of our police officers here in Queensland.
The New South Wales State Emergency Service hopes a new information campaign helps culturally diverse residents in northwest Sydney prepare for a flood emergency. Messaging in languages that include Arabic and Cantonese will appear in media content across the Nepean Hawkesbury region, which was devastated by floods earlier this year. Blacktown SES team leader Terence Sarawina says a campaign will help people prepare a flood plan.
I've had to deal with it face to face, and it is difficult, especially with the panic. I think them being able to have at least that comfort of reading or listening to something in their own language will help them and ease them into understanding how important it is.
A Sydney police officer has been charged with possessing child abuse material. The 55-year-old detective senior constable has been arrested at the Hills Police Station in Sydney's northwest. He's accused of possessing or controlling child abuse material obtained using a carriage service. The officer is due to face court next month. Liam Adams has won Sydney's City to Surf Fun Run. The 35-year-old electrician finished the 14-kilometre race in just over 41 minutes. Leanne Pompiani won the women's division, finishing in just under 46 minutes. That's the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, I'm Patrick Stack, and if you like great stories and you enjoy sport, then I reckon you need ABC Sport Daily in your life.
We're talking stratospheric amounts of cash with these people.
He blew a gasket in a way that I can't ever recall hearing before in a post-game press conference.
I don't think I'm the first person to say it feels a little cultish at times. So what does it look like when you got all those...
Oh, it is, and I'm one of the ever faithful.
It's a daily sports conversation, and it's called ABC Sport Daily. Find us on the Listen app.
Reid down for Clark, and now Hickey can tumble it back infield for Franklin. Spills the chest mark. Warner breaking by. Slips the tackle of Noble. 40 from goal. Pulls it short. Hayward marks top of the goal square and can thump it through. Welcome back to the SCG. Half-time, the Sydney Swans lead Collingwood by 15 points in this Sunday afternoon blockbuster with serious consequences for the top four. You're with Brett Sprigg alongside Daniel Garb, Nathan Burke, Alicia Eva and Glenn Lauder on the boundary. The Sydney Swans past players, marking 40 years since the relocation. They're doing a lap of honour as well, being led around the SCG by Josh Kennedy, who announced his retirement during the week. And I believe as well we'll very shortly have Mike Brady belt out a variation on his classic Up There Kazali, Up There for Sydney, which he performed, I think, on the day they launched the Sydney Swans 40 years ago. But he is also a halftime guest. We'll bring that to you very, very shortly. But in the meantime, Sydney Swans lead by 15 points here, second half not too far away. Earlier, Richmond by 61 points over Hawthorn at the MCG. Tom Lynch kicked 8 goals, season high, or equal season high. Prestia with 30 disposals for the Tigers, and Tom Mitchell had 32 touches for Hawthorn to lead all comers. We are underway at Docklands, Essendon, Port Adelaide. Ben Cameron keeping an eye on that. Ben.
Yeah, it's currently Port Adelaide who lead one straight 6 to Essendon, yet to score through the opening 2.5 minutes. They scored the opening major of the game through their former captain, Travis Boak. They went straight out of the middle, inside 50, and Boak gold inside 17 seconds to start the match for Port Adelaide. So they're one straight 6, Essendon yet to score 2.5 minutes in. Spriggy.
Thank you, Ben. By the way, in the VFL here, Sydney beat Collingwood by 3 points. Quickly looking at other sports in the National Rugby League competition, earlier the Canberra Raiders beat St George Illawarra 24 points to 22, and it's late in the first half. The Gold Coast Titans and the Manly Warringah Seagulls 12 all late in the first half there. There's also the Australia Cup Soccer, of course, and Sydney United and West United have gone to penalties, and that was won by Sydney United. So I did spot our good friend Neil Cordy in amongst the throng of past players making their way around, but I think they're going to stop short and form a guard of honour for the Swans to make their way back out onto the SCG, the current day Swans. But it is nice to see Josh Kennedy being waved to by plenty of Swans fans. They're showing their appreciation for that man who finishes 290 odd games, 3-time best and fairest, 3-time All-Australian. He gets a hug down there from, I think, Shane Mumford. I can see also Heath Grundy, who's someone we've also had before on the wireless here on ABC Radio. Now, that explains it. Taikanelli's down there. That's why he sent me a text on Monday. Said, I can't do the game this week. He didn't sort of specify why, but he is partial to the odd function, and fair enough. Taikanelli is down there amongst that group of Swans old boys.
I'm just trying to think back. My first game here was 35 years ago, so not long after they started, but it certainly changed a lot, this ground. We had the old hill down that far end, which was quite rowdy at times, and went through the whole Jeffrey Edelston and Warwick Kappa days, and Greg Healy and Greg Williams, and the two Gerard Healy. Amazing.
Let us
amazing
well,
history.
Berkey. Here is Mike Brady.
Swans are a old-fashioned thing. Swannies on the ground. The red and white champions. They're here to play and win. Sydney Swans are on the move, and they stick through thick and thin. Are you ready? 40 years, here we go! For Sydney, in their fight, the spirit of Kazali, the red and the white. Out there for Sydney, Sydney, come on, high-flying, red-blooded, we're the Sydney Swans. Well, things don't come that easy when you're up against the rest. You have to show your courage, you want to be the best. There's 80s inspiration of winning do or die. We're out to show Australia. Watch the big birds fly, here we go! 2, 3, 4! Out there for Sydney, in there and fight. Out there and Adam, show her your might. Sydney, come on, high-flying, red-blooded, we're the Sydney Swans. Out there for Sydney, in there and fight, the spirit of Kazali, the red and the white. Yeah, out there for Sydney, Sydney, come on, high-flying, red-blooded, we're the Sydney Swans. Out there for Sydney, in there and fight, the spirit of Kazali, the red and the white. Out there for Sydney, Sydney, come on, high-flying, red-blooded, we're the Sydney Swans. What are we?
Let's go downstairs quickly. Glenn Lauder, down to you.
I've got Neil Cordy alongside me. Spriggy, 96 games for the Swans in the early days, mate. What's it like to be back on the 40th anniversary?
Unreal, absolutely unreal. It's been a sensational get-together of all the people, especially the ones from the early years, like Barry Round, Mark Browning, all those guys that really did it hard and set up the foundation for what we see today, which is a really healthy and strong footy club.
Yeah, Berkey just spoke about it upstairs. A little bit different to what it was in the early days, and what an occasion to celebrate Josh Kennedy's career as well.
Yeah, I know. What a champ he's been. One of the legends of Hawthorn, of a legendary Hawthorn family, and now a legend at the Swans.
Go and enjoy it with the boys. Thanks, Cords.
Well done. Thanks, Glenn. Thank you to our good mate Cords as well. Now, make no mistake, we're not yet in September, but the real winner this time of year is Mike Brady. Don't worry about that. Off the SMS quickly, 0437 774 774. Good game, great commentary as always. And particularly love Alicia's astute and insightful special comments. Great stuff, says Tim from Wodonga. As a Hawks member, I'm disappointed with the result today. At least I got to hear the best AFL team song, says B in Mount Gambier. Well, take your wins where you can get them, B. Richmond's big win over the Hawks. Michael from Wyndham Vale, sadly with listeners at home, cannot hear that special audio feed. It'll be very interesting. Yeah, John Longmire on the bench earlier with a few, terse words for his charges in what was a pretty challenging start to the game, and it's only 15 points the margin here. And amidst all the fanfare around the Swans, Berkey and Alicia, let's not get lost in the fact that Collingwood, this is what they do. They're 15 points down. They come back from 3 or 4 goals in games. They've done that plenty of times. This, in some ways, notwithstanding Jack Ginnivan's injury, which we'll get down to Glenn Lauder very shortly, is where they would want the game to be played, the Pies, at the moment.
Yeah, I think they certainly improved in that second quarter. Ball movement, they got it going their way a little bit more, but it was that inside 50 breakdown. So, look, I'm sure they've gone back in at halftime, they've reset, and they'll come out firing here.
I think we've got movement as far as the Pies sub is concerned. So down to Glenn very shortly as we get this second half underway. Daniel Garb.
Hickey with the high ball in the middle of the SCG. Here's Josh Dacos trying to win it for the Magpies. Pendlebury with composure in tight spaces, as he so often does. Kicks it into attack. Myercheck couldn't mark. Elliott trying to crumb. Good second effort by Myercheck to wrap up Florent and wrap the ball up inside attacking 50 for Collingwood, who trailed by 15 points, started the third quarter. But have they got a big injury blow, Glenn Lauder?
Yeah, they have, Garby. Callum Brown is on the field in the middle of the park for Collingwood. Jack Ginnivan's done his hamstring. He won't be back today. So Callum Brown is the medical sub.
Okay, so the sub will be at half-time. Stevens here in a burst on the outer side for the Swans. Comes up the line, but Darcy Moore gets back to take the intercept at right half-back for the Pies. No change to our half-time score. Sydney by 15 points. They wheel and go through Maynard, though, Collingwood. Bouncing ball towards the paint of 50. Is a free kick here being paid to go the Swans' way, and it will go the way of Paddy McCartan on the flank. So already without Jordan Ngoe today, and no Jack Ginnivan. It was lively in the first half for Collingwood. Up to a 2-on-2 on the outer side. Reid down to Heaney at ground level. Is pushed off the kick by Noble. One away by Chris. The lad for Myrtleford. Hand pass inboard for his skipper Pendlebury. Dummies the hand pass. Comes back on that left boot. Now the 45 kick chopped off by Hayward. Marks just behind the bullseye here for Sydney.
Does this really well, Will Hayward. Plays it half forward, but gets back and helps his teammates out. Finds Callum Mills. He puts it over the head of Ryan Clark. It'll just outrun him. Looked like he had so much time to gather that Ryan Clark at half forward, but the ball just wouldn't sit up. So a boundary throw in, 65 out from Sydney's goal.
9 times out of 10 that'd sit up lovely and you spin around on your right foot to kick the ball inside 50, but just never did.
The Pies undermanned now with Ginnivan out. Ngoe, a late omission. Still missing Taylor Adams as well. Ball goes inside 50 for Sydney. Clark's there, tries to slap it to Heaney. Taken over the boundary line, though, by Braden Maynard. But this is what Collingwood do, as you were saying, Brett Sprigg. Odds against them. They've been second best in this contest so far, but it's only a 15-point margin.
Stoppage inside 50 here for the Swans at the Randwick end. Papley could control the football. Nick Dacos, handball chopped off by Mills. Flying shot goes high in the air and just misses the right hand behind post. So out of bounds on the full. And again, no change to that half-time score. Sydney 5-7 plays Collingwood 3-4.
Jeremy Howe, the dangerous kick. It's over the head of the sub in Callum Brown and picked up cleanly by Ollie Florent. Handball inboard to Reid. And now back to Rowbottom. He snaps it into attack for the Swans. Darcy Moore is back there. He's collided upon by his own teammates. That allows Buddy Franklin to intervene. Snap towards goal. Take advantage and kick his second of the game. Swans out to a 21-point lead. Buddy strikes and he seizes on a Magpie mistake.
Yeah, Jeremy Howe will be filthy with himself there. He tried to take the high-risk, high-reward kick and missed the target. And then when that ball came back in with a bit of height, he's just leapt and collided mid-air with Darcy Moore there. So he will be pretty filthy. But like good leaders do, he's just got to get the backs together, reset, and then go again.
Well, that's Buddy's second for the day, and they've both come from front centre crumbs. So I'd like to say he does both. He does the high ones and the low ones, but he doesn't necessarily do the high ones. He gets the leads and those ones, and he's very, very good at them. He doesn't need a second chance. He's got such great skills for a tall player.
Opening up a gap on Isaac Heaney in the goal kicking for the Swans. So 47 majors on the year now for Buddy Franklin. Heaney with 43 and 1 this afternoon. Equal game high, 21-point lead the Swans' way. They'll win the clearance through Warner. Hand pass, that was dicey. Papley knocked it out in advantage here for Dylan Stevens. On the outer wing. Comes now to find Clark, the former Kangaroo. Lays it off by hand. Back to the Mildura lad, Stevens. Kick was partly smothered, goes out of bounds. It was nice, desperate effort that time from Nick Dacos in defence. And it trickles out for a throw-in. Right on the junction of 50 at left half forward for the Sydney Swans. Attacking the Randwick or southern end of the SCG with a 21-point lead.
So Franklin with a 4-goal lead on Heaney in search of the Swans' leading goal kicker award, looking for his 13th award of that nature. 6 at Hawthorn, 6 at the Swans. Here's Isaac Heaney in space inside 50. Had the chance to snap on goal, just pulled it slightly through for a behind. 22 points the margin.
John Noble very lucky there. He just did not see Heaney standing there all by himself with 3 metres off, and should have been a goal to Heaney.
Darcy Moore kicks out. It comes through a couple of sets of hands. Howe can spread it out wide for Noble. And he can kick for distance up the O'Reilly wing of the SCG. Robbie Fox tracks it towards the boundary. Ash Johnson goes with him, but they both ran out of room. So we'll come back for a throw-in. 65 around from the Collingwood goal in front of the Delhi Messenger stand, in front of the scoreboard. 6 gone third term. Sydney 6-8. Collingwood 3-4. What do the Pies have left early in this second half?
Hickey tries to slap it forward for the Swans. Picked up though by Noble. Crisp is there. Well tackled by Jake Lloyd. Another strong tackle by Lloyd. He's 6th of the game. Leading the way, the Swans, in that sense. Leading by 22 points as well as the shadows now extend over the SCG. Kick forward by Sydney to centre half forward off hands. Picked up by the sub in Callum Brown. His first possession. Noble's handball though is less than convincing, and Rowbottom puts a strong tackle on Scott Pendlebury on the outer side. We'll have a ball up. Rowbottom now up to 8 tackles.
Just watching Jamie Elliott come up to the back of this stoppage here. He has only had the 3 touches for the day, and I think if Collingwood are going to win this game, he's got to get dangerous. He's got to find the footy.
Voice of Giants captain Alicia Eva on Grandstand AFL. Crisp off here to Nick Dacos. Goes inside 50. A neat entry. That's a fine. Johnson leading up and taking the mark. 35 out, slightly left of centre.
The way to beat Paddy McCann is to have space and a great hard lead and put it out in front. If you bomb the ball in there, it's going to win those every single day. But on that occasion, it was a wonderful kick by Dacos coming through the middle of the ground, and a really sharp lead by Johnson. Needs to put this one through to stay in touch.
Missed one earlier, coming off 4 goals against the Demons at the MCG last week. The lad from Halls Creek over in WA connects from 48 out. It's on its way. It's looking straight and true, but thumped through on the line by the Sydney defence, and it is another minor score for him. So he's just the 2 behinds today. Every opportunity so important as far as Collingwood are concerned. 3-5-23, they trail the Swans to a 6-8-44. Margin 21, 7.5 played third term.
He just tried to nurse that one through instead of kicking through it. He's got that distance in him every single day, but just went for accuracy rather than distance.
Lloyd goes short to Robbie Fox, who just pops it over the top to Ollie Florent, left half back for Sydney. Up the wing he goes to Dylan Stevens. Another quick kick. He finds Luke Parker, so the Swans have managed to move the ball up to the wing pretty quickly. After that Magpie behind, Swans up by 21 points. Now Parker plays on and drives it to half forward. Quain is there, as is Nathan Murphy. He marks strongly opposed to Sam Reid. You mentioned Jamie Elliott, Alicia, only the 3 disposals. Myercheck as well, only with the 2. And there's a free kick now to Sam Reid. And he'll play on quickly. Put it to the top of the square. Hayward's there with Callum Brown. Callum Brown does well to spoil it over for a boundary throw-in.
I can't tell you what that free kick was for.
No. And I can tell you, Buddy Franklin wasn't very happy with the direction of that kick. He wanted it more corridor. He wanted to run and jump at it.
Like all good full forwards, he lets him know very quickly.
Pictures of Jack Gideon on the big screen with a hamstring wrapped up in the ice. Subbed out, so Callum Brown out there for the Pies. Collingwood from the clearance in defensive 50. Pendlebury the hand pass to Howe, and now McCreary out in open space. Goulden is chasing him. Second bounce McCreary. Floats the hand pass forward under pressure now. Johnson slips the tackle of Lloyd. Little drop kick up the outer side. It worked out okay. Perhaps Florent gets there though for the Swans. And now a free kick for a hold going the way of that man Oliver Florent. So I thought Collingwood might just keep the run going after the improvisation from Ash Johnson, but the Swans control things yet again. They lead by 21. Robbie Fox has the footy at left half back. Most of the SCG surface now in the shadows. Kick left wanting. Picked up on the bounce by Carmichael, who runs it out of bounds for a throw-in.
Yes, so Elliott just 3 disposals. Brody Myercheck just the 2 and the 1 goal. So the 2 best forwards for Collingwood. Very quiet so far. Ash Johnson has looked dangerous though. Just struggling to convert at the moment. Boundary throwing out aside. Hickey's there with Darcy Cameron wins it cleanly, does Tom Hickey. Well smothered though by Carmichael, and the kick off the ground bounces off James Rowbottom's ankle. And over for another boundary throw in on the outer side. Sydney 6-8-44, Collingwood 3-5-23. Swans leading by 21 points, and if it stays this way, they will move into second place, heading into the final round of the season.
Back in it comes on the outer side. Carmichael shuffles out the hand pass. Stevens beaten to it by, in fact, he beat Sidebottom to the football, but he's taken high by still Sidebottom. So a free kick, Sydney.
So I am watching Jamie Elliott, and as I mentioned earlier, he is coming up into stoppage to try and get his hands on it and get busy and hopefully lose his opponent on the way back. But he just looks a bit flat-footed. He's walking across the ground at the moment.
Off a couple of steps, out to the flank. Cameron tried to get there for the Pies. Reed down to Parker. Now Goulden 55 out. Good vision, goes inside 50. Skids out in front of Chad Warner. Keeps it alive in the pocket. Franklin comes through. Back to Heaney. Hurried snap and the goal as well. Heaney's second. And the Swans push it out to 27 points. 7-8-50, plays Collingwood 3-5-23, 11 gone third term here at the SCG on Grandstand AFL. Let's quickly go around the grounds to Docklands, Essendon, Port Adelaide, Ben Cameron.
Yeah, Port Adelaide currently lead by 15 points. Spriggy, they're 4 straight, 24. Essendon 1-3-9. That's 19 minutes into the opening term. Remiss of me not to mention earlier the Medi-subs for Essendon, Ben Hobbs, for Port Adelaide, Jackson Mead.
So the Swans 7-8-50, Collingwood 3-5-23, Sydney by 27 points. Big goal Isaac Heaney, 2-3 for the game for him. He has been dangerous. Franklin set him up, but he has a couple. Heaney has 2. It was a lovely handball from Franklin in the pocket for Heaney to snap. And the Swans now with a healthy lead. Can Collingwood respond? They've done so consistently over the last 3 months on this 11-game winning run. Is it about to end here at the SCG? Josh Dacos runs the ball inside defensive 50 from the ball up in the middle. Manages to gather it and send it to John Noble at right half back. Dacos gets it back. That's Josh. Sends it up the wing for Crisp. Paddy McCartan comes out to meet it. Well done, James Rowbottom, to win it cleanly. Handball to Blakey. Guides it up the wing and finds Franklin in space. Swans surging at the moment. Franklin goes to Logan McDonald. He'll play on now. Kick it to the top of the square. Goulden is there. Quainer with him. Carmichael as well. He spoils it. There's a free kick to Errol Goulden directly in front for the Swans against Isaac Quainer. Well, it was a 3-on-1 situation and Goulden's won the free kick.
Yeah, Goulden did his best to accentuate the little bit of a contact, but Quainer just sort of stuck out an arm, grabbed his arm and took him off balance, and the umpire sees that when it's so open, and he's going to pay that 9 times out of 10.
The issue may have been that Quainer took his eyes off the football for a moment, looked at Goulden and hit him on the arm. It looked a little bit soft, but Goulden is directly in front, 15 metres out, to put the Swans out to a 6-goal break. Errol Goulden slams it through. And it is all Sydney at the moment here at the SCG. They lead by 33 points and Goulden has his first.
He's a beautiful kick of the football, Errol Goulden, and Mason Cox did his very best with that jumping man on the mark routine, but he's a dead-eye, Errol Goulden, so that would have been an easy one for him.
Problem for Collingwood is that we know that they come back and they're never out, but for them to get back into this game, pardon me, a lot of things have to change. Like Sydney defence has to completely fall over. The Collingwood players who aren't touching the ball, and we've mentioned them a lot recently, they need to change around their fortunes enormously, and I just don't see that happening. So whilst we laud Collingwood for their ability to get back into the game and hang in there, I think that just too much has to change for them to be able to do it today.
Swans by 33, restart back in the middle, waiting for a clearance, spinning through traffic cleverly. Josh Dacos has some space to move now on that right boot, on the angled kick to the flank, but Robbie Fox gets back into space really well and takes the intercept mark here for the Swans. Another Tasmanian out there, Robbie Fox. Comes up the commentary side. Out to a 2-on-2. Darcy Moore got set in the contest with McDonald. At the drop, though, Goulden sends the Swans back inside forward 50. Good spoil from Noble that time on Haywood. And it's rolled out of bounds for a throw-in. 20 around from Sydney's goal, Randwick end. Sydney leads by 33 points here. 8-8 plays, 3-5. 15 gone, third term.
Enjoying Josh Dacos's work. 16 disposals, 8 contested possessions, 6 clearances. He's been good for the Pies, but they trail by just under 6 goals. Here's Luke Parker trying to win the ball cleanly inside 50 for the Swans. Papley does that instead. His snap bounces over the head of Franklin. Back there is Callum Brown, the substitute for Collingwood. Gives it to Noble, who has a bounce in the back pocket. Well watched, though, by Logan McDonald, who put a good chase on. Up to the wing he goes. Johnson leapt for it for Collingwood. Couldn't mark. His second effort is very good, though, to wrap up Paddy McCartan. Johnson wins it back. Tries to handball to Lipinski. Gets it back from Lipinski, but he's gone over the boundary line. So we'll have a boundary throw in on the outer side. Swans leading by 33 points. Beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Sydney. The shadows have now fully extended across the SCG. Here's Brett Sprigg on Grandstand AFL.
Back in it comes from the outer side. Hickey and Cox laid down here in a path for Pendlebury. Not a tidy kick, though. Might work out okay for Hoskin Elliott, who goes up, but he's copped a bit of a knock on the way down. Interestingly enough, he and Rampy were both...
Oh, and he sore nose.
Yeah, they both went off for the blood rule early in the separate incidents in the first half, but now Hoskin Elliott's going to come off again for the blood rule. So it's been re-aggravated by the contact from Dane Rampy.
It's always the way. You get one sore spot on your body, and guaranteed some stage someone will find that, oh, that was a fished right in his sore snoz from Rampy. Just on the spoil, nothing untoward, but when you've got a sore nose already, that hurts. Makes the eyes water.
It'll be a free kick for the Pies anyway, as it was a chopping of the arms. So Maynard to have it from just sort of halfway. Every player in the ground just about inside the Pies attacking 50 at that northern end of the ground. And it skids off the pack and goes out for a throw-in. 15 around from that right behind post at right full forward. Sydney 8-8-56, Collingwood 3-5-23. Margin 33 points the home side's way. 17 travelled third term.
Boundary umpire throws the ball back in. Here's Mason Cox getting it down to Carmichael. He's wrapped up strongly by Callum Mills. Excellent tackle from the Swans co-captain, who is one of the best in the competition in that. 6 in the comp for tackles is Callum Mills, and he's up to 7 this afternoon. Here's Parker, wins the clearance. High kick, Quayner's under it, as is Papley. Well marked by Papley in his own defensive 50. Watched that beautifully into his hands. Relieves some pressure for the Swans, but they're up by 33 points.
Long way from home, Papley. He finds Robbie Fox, though, on the flank. Lays off the hand pass to Mills. Long raking right boot deep inside 50. Franklin was beaten in the 2-on-1. And coming across, Jeremy Howe takes the intercept. He can spread his kick across the half-back line now. Bianco forward for Noble. And at the back of him was Goulden. Ball stays with him and the umpire will ball it up.
Oh, I like Noble's endeavour to try something different and get the ball moving quickly, try and get some overlap run going, but at the moment there just seems to be too few on the same page for the Collingwood side at the moment.
Stoppage at right half back for the Pies. Carmichael goes the fend off, shares the hand pass back to Noble. Now he kicks up the outer side. Tom McCartan in the contest with Mychek. Blakey, the loose man, comes by. Gathers, he can kick. Almost turns it over as well to Mason Cox, who in turn is wrapped up by Callum Mills. Dispossessed. Loose football on the wing of the SCG. Parker bursts through. He can't spend the footy. Also in there again for the Pies, Carmichael. And now Blakey runs it out of bounds in front of Bianco for a throw-in on the eastern side, the far side of the ground in front of the O'Reilly stand. It's packed with mostly Sydney Swans supporters, and the home side leads by 33 points here, approaching time on third term.
Mason Cox with Tom Hickey. Hickey palms it down to Mills. Picked up by Pendlebury, looking for Nick Dacos, but Mills sharks it to Warner. Feigned the handball inside. Noble watched him closely, put some pressure on. Warner gets a handball free though. To half forward, picked up well by Jeremy Howe. Callum Brown gives it to Dick Dacos. He's lost the handle. Now Warner sends it long inside 50 for the Swans. Watching it well though is Isaac Quayner to mark in front of the behind post. Quayner will go short. and find Callum Brown. He's on the ground for Jack Ginnivan, who was subbed off with a hamstring injury. Ginnivan up to the wing. There's Nick Dacos, tackled by Warner. Got the handball free to Noble, though. That's a dangerous handball into the corridor from Noble. Picked up by Papley at centre half forward for the Swans. Handball over the top for Florent. Has a chance to assess options and finds Justin McInerney.
Controls it for a moment. Just slows things down here for the Swans. They can feel this game getting further into their keeping. 60 from goal, McInerney. Drives it long inside attack here for the Swans. At the back, Callum Brown has taken the intercept mark.
That's a fair effort in amongst those players. They're all 2 foot taller than him.
Carried the pack and he just happened to clutch it out the back of the goal square. They'll try to rebound here quickly, the Pies. Kick skidded here from Josh Dacos. Pendlebury parries it to advantage here for Bo McCreary. Rides a shepherd as well, Pendlebury. McCreary still running, has a bounce, goes inside 50, tries to find Darcy Cameron. Again, Jake Lloyd, the much smaller man, makes a contest. And it's out of bounds for a throw-in. 40 around now. It's going to come back here for a free kick for a chopping of the arms. So a free kick after all that, though, for Darcy Cameron. Praising the defensive work of Jake Lloyd, but Darcy Cameron will have a set shot here on a 45-degree angle. In fact, probably tougher than that, the left-hand side of the field, and 40 metres out.
In my book, you're a big, strong fella. You're a foot taller than the guy behind you. You've got to mark it. He's lucky to get a shot here.
Down by 33 points, the Pies. Can they kickstart their resurgence here? Every opportunity is so important. Cameron on the approach. Kicks from 45 and nurses it straight through for a goal. To silence that pocket of SCG fans. Can they build on this, the Magpies? That is their 5th, in fact, their 4th of the afternoon. Margin back to 27, 4-5 place, 8-8. Sydney's lead here, 21 gone third term. Alicia Eva and Nathan Burke.
Well, he did turn around and fist pumped towards the members' pavilion. So, of course, he's played a lot of footy up here, Darcy Cameron. Happy with that. But look, what I loved then from Collingwood, I think it was McCreary. He ran and carried with the ball down the wing, and just a little bit more dynamic than what we've seen the first little part of this quarter. But I think, for mine, Collingwood just need to get more contributors in the midfield. We've spoken about Josh Dacos and Pendlebury, but I think they've got a goal on the board now, but we've got to see Sidebottom get going. We've got to see Nick Dacos get going, and Noble up onto a wing now. So he's been playing across half back. He's on the wing.
22 minutes gone in the third quarter. Swans lead by 27 points. Big goal for the Pies, but the Swans go inside 50. Maynard tried to mark in the contest. It fell the way of Will Hayward. Spots up a target inside 50, and he's spotted up Tom Papley. Excellent kick from Hayward. Didn't have much space, but he guided it straight onto the chest of Papley, who'll kick from 45 metres out.
Again, that centre clearance is really vital, and it was Luke Parker that time, just in total sync with his ruck. Tom Hickey put it down his throat, snapped the ball forward, and as we've said numerous times, you get the ball out of the centre here at Sydney Swans and you're in attacking zone.
Papley has kicked 2 goals or more in his last 5 games. Can he make it 6 straight games? Yes, he can. He pumps the air, gives the high fives to his teammates, and puts the Swans out to a 33-point lead as we get close to three-quarter time.
And you're spot on, Berkey. I think we've been speaking a little bit about who needs to get going from a Collingwood perspective, but who has been strong all day from the Swans is Luke Parker as he comes off the ground for a breather. He's had 10 contested possessions, 7 clearances, and he's up to the 21, like at 71% efficiency. Handy coming out of the midfield.
And reflecting on Josh Kennedy's career, we talk about players who are in those big game moments, who are good finals players, and Luke Parker himself played in that most recent grand final era as well for the Swans, but you get the feeling he will be that player for the Swans. If they are to go deep in September, he is that barometer for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he goes, Callum Mills will take over that role, and then Chad Warner will take over that role. They tend to produce them like that here in Sydney.
Swans by 33. Wonky bounce to restart. Reid competes with Cameron. The bounce will be recalled. Keep your texts coming. 0437 774 774. Pies fans, is this a wake-up call? After 11 straight wins, the Swans chasing 6 straight. This game is not done yet. McInerney Goes the fend on Carmichael. Sends the kick inside forward 50. Back with the flight. Clark couldn't control it. Almost collides with his teammate Franklin. Mopped up in defence now. Slung to ground. Callum Brown couldn't get the hand pass away. Ball stays with him. Out it comes now for Papley. He can tumble a kick from the pocket. Back to the corridor. Hayward back with the flight. Not quite there. Also there McDonald. Parries it out now for Stevens. Dylan Stevens can just slap boot to ball. Goes up here. And now Isaac Heaney has been bumped into by Callum Mills. So again, those teammates spot each other, but Callum Mills does take the chest mark, 30 out directly in front.
Well, normally team rules say that should be Callum Mills' ball. He's the one coming backwards and Heaney's behind him. He can see what's happening, but it is Heaney's 150th.
Callum Mills, youngest captain in the AFL. On the approach from 35, misses left-hand side for a minor score. A chance to really put this game almost beyond doubt as we close in on three-quarter time. 34 points as a game-high lead Sydney's way. 9-9 plays 4-5.
The Swans' premiership stocks rising as we speak. We get close to three-quarter time. They have a 6-goal break on the Pies. Off the hands of Sam Reid at right half forward for Sydney. Here's Rowbottom, another possession for him. Throws it on the boot. High ball. Franklin out to meet it. Spoiled the pack. Stays in play. Franklin gathers. Left half forward for the Swans. Gives it to Goulden. He's knocked off the football. Well done by Dacos. That's Josh to come out and meet it. Handball towards the boundary line, and he's pinged for deliberate. Swans fans love that. Dylan Stevens brings it back in. Guides it inside 50 for Sydney. Jeremy Howe with the big leap. We've seen him do that so many times before, floating across the pack and taking a chest mark from high up.
He can find Bianco by a foot. Now Jamie Elliott breaking up the ground. Takes a mark at right half back. He'll come back inboard now for Sidebottom. Ian Pendlebury played in that premiership way back in 2010. The Magpies veteran Sidebottom shares it with Maynard.
Sydney's transition from not having the ball to defence is just outstanding. Just slows Collingwood up every time.
Swans by 34. Johnson tried to clunk it. Got a spoil from Rampy from behind. Robbie Fox loses his footing and goes out of bounds for a throw-in. 65 around from the Collingwood goal at Paddington end. Swans by 34 here. Back to the boundary line. Glenn Lauder.
Yeah, Will Hoskin-Elliott's back out there for Collingwood. He's got the Hannibal Lecter look going with the tape around the nose after a second pretty heavy knock. Luke Parker about to re-enter the fray for Sydney. And they were just starting to celebrate a little bit when Callum Mills took that mark. But after he put it wide, just starting to keep it in check.
Ball bounces inside 50 for Collingwood. Noble gathers it, guides it into the pocket. Good punch by Dane Rampy. Straight down to Errol Goulden. Nick Blakey slipped over though. That gives Collingwood a chance to win it back. Myercheck socketed it off the ground straight to Paddy McCartan. He's caught though by Ash Johnson. Did well to bounce off Johnson and then rush it through for a behind. Has he, Paddy McCartan? In fact, it's a free kick to Johnson, I think, for the fend-off against Paddy McCartan.
Either that or he's paid a deliberate...
Johnson will snap either way and kick a goal for the Pies.
Confused by this.
Everyone's confused. The Sydney fans aren't happy.
He was under pressure because the Collingwood player was pushing him across the line.
Swans lead cut back to 28 points. Ash Johnson has his first for the game, but we're not too sure if that was for a fend-off against Paddy McCartan or for deliberate. If it's deliberate, it's pretty harsh. We see that quite often, don't we?
Yeah, I think he's paid it for deliberate, but...
Yeah. It can't be a fend-off because they wouldn't. Four players wouldn't complain to the umpire. So he's a kick off the ground. He's marked the ball top of the goal square, gone back to take his kick. Johnson has chased him over the boundary line, over the goal line, and the umpire said you weren't under pressure.
Every now and then the umpire makes a statement and cracks down with that rule. You don't see it too often. Magpies win the clearance here. Josh Dacos bursts away. Sends them back inside forward 50. Long to a 2-on-2. Spoil from behind the Sydney defence. Jake Lloyd slaps it out in space now for McInerney. He can turn away from an opponent. Now he's kicked though a little untidy. Picked off by Darcy Cameron. Now to Sidebottom. Maynard thumps it back inside 50 here for the Pies. A little too shallow down there for Tom McCartan. In goes McInerney again. Now Rampy. He can clear for the Swans in front of the scoreboard. Back with the flight again. This time Nick Dacos. 65 from goal. Late in this third term, kick is a turnover straight to Franklin, who was trying to come inboard to find Darcy Moore, and Franklin beat him through the aerial contest. His kick is also a turnover straight here to Pendlebury. He goes inside 50 and Cox is unmarked. 40 out directly in front, Mason Cox. They're still getting looks here, the Pies.
They are. All of a sudden in the last 2 minutes, there's more energy in how they're moving across the ground, and a couple of turnovers, and Sydney making a couple of basic fundamental skill errors. So this will be interesting if it goes through.
Mason Cox got his Australian passport during the week. Of course, the recent Aussie citizen. To close the gap to 22. To come within 4 goals, the Pies. Mason Cox, that is a clean-looking set shot. And the Magpie Army loves it. Late in the third term, they strike back. Collingwood 6-5-41. Sydney 9-9-63. Margin 22. Late in this third term, approaching the half-hour mark here at the SCG on ABC Grandstand AFL.
It's one of the first times, I think, Alicia, that they've kicked back-to-back goals.
Yeah, and I was just having a laugh because whoever it was on the mark, I think it was one of the McCartan boys. Tom McCartan was employing the same tactic that Mason Cox actually uses, the jack-in-the-box tactic. And as soon as he kicked it straight, Mason Cox just lumbered on over to him and let him know that it wasn't quite effective.
It is, in fact, first time back-to-back goals for the Pies in this game.
And they just won't go away. All season long, it's been the story for Collingwood. You cannot shake them off. They're on an 11-game winning run. They've pegged this margin back to 22 points as we get close to three-quarter time. We'll have another ball up in the middle. The ball favoured Darcy Cameron more than Tom Hickey, so the umpire will bring it back.
If they do win this, I will be a true believer in Collingwood.
Hickey with the big leap this time. Down to Luke Parker. Spills the way of Steele's side bottom though. Warner tracks it well. Josh Dacos, good tackle. Hoskin Elliott picks it up. Tumbled kick inside 50. Free kick goes the way of Sydney though. Back edge of the square to Chad Warner.
You've said his name a few times this quarter, but Josh Dacos has been huge for Collingwood.
Up to 19 disposals.
From the middle, Warner could flare it wide for Jake Lloyd. Jake Lloyd just controls the football on the wing. You can hear the Swans bench downstairs saying 1 minute, 1 minute. Left in this quarter. High ball inside 50. Reid clunks it. Sam Reid got set nice and early. Stuck out the Dukes and pulls it in from down high, up high. And he'll take his set shot from 45 out, slightly right of centre.
It's a funny game, football, because I think the bench were yelling 1 minute, 1 minute. They wanted him to just hold the ball, go a little bit wider. He actually brought the ball into the corridor, which was risky, but they're going to get a shot for goal from it.
May prove very consequential as far as this game is concerned. Sam Reid's set shot is missing to the left-hand side, though, so they extend the lead only by 1. 23 points the Swans' way in the dying seconds of this third term.
Sam Reid, a premiership player in 2012. Can he be another one 10 years later? Swans are well and truly in this flag race as Darcy Moore brings it back in. Time ticking down in the third quarter. Sends it out to the outer side. Coming out to meet it was Johnson off hands. Picked up by McInerney. He's well tackled. Blakey soccers it away from the contest. Siren goes. Collingwood back in this game. The margin is still 23 points in favour of the Swans. Second place at stake with a quarter to go at the SCG.
Goal kickers in this game so far. Franklin, Heaney, Papley each with 2 for the Swans. Goulden, Haywood, Rampy on the board as well for them. While for the Magpies, all individuals. Darcy Cameron, Mason Cox, Josh Dacos, Jack Ginnivan, who's been subbed out with a hamstring, Ash Johnson and Brody Myercheck on the board as well. Swans by 23 at the final change on ABC Radio, News Radio and ABC Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
We are one,
but we are many. And from all the lands on earth we come, we share a dream as big with one voice.
90 years of the ABC.
I am, you are, we are Australian.
90 years yours.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL. On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Reid, now back to row bottom. He snaps it into attack for the Swans. Darcy Moore is back there. He's collided upon by his own teammates. That allows Buddy Franklin to intervene. Snap towards goal. Take take advantage and kick his second of the game.
Parker now, Goulden 55 out. Good vision, goes inside 50, skids out in front of Chad Warner, keeps it alive in the pocket. Franklin comes through, back to Heaney, hurried snap, and the goal as well. Heaney's second.
The Swans go inside 50. Maynard tried to mark in the contest. It fell the way of Will Hayward. Spots up a target inside 50. And he's spotted up Tom Papley. Papley has kicked 2 goals or more in his last 5 games. Can he make it 6 straight games? Yes, he can.
Kick is a turnover straight to Franklin, who was trying to come inboard to find Darcy Moore, and Franklin beat him through the aerial contest. His kick is also a turnover straight here to Pendlebury. He goes inside 50 and Cox is unmarked. 40 out directly in front, Mason Cox. Come within 4 goals, the Pies. Mason Cox, that is a clean looking set shot. And the Magpie Army loves it.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Still all to play for at the SCG. Sydney by 23 points over Collingwood. You're with Brett Sprigg, Daniel Garb, Nathan Burke, Alicia Eva and Glenn Lauder here as the evening takes hold at the SCG on a beautiful Sunday afternoon/evening. But the final game of the round is underway at Docklands. Essendon, Port Adelaide, Ben Cameron keeping an eye on that. Ben.
Yeah, and currently, Spriggy, it is Port Adelaide leading by 15 points. In fact, you can make that 21 points because Connor Rosie has just snapped from about 35 metres out in the pocket to extend that Port Adelaide lead. They've now kicked the last 3 goals of the game. They're 7-1-43, leading Essendon 3-4-22, nearly 8 minutes into the second term.
Good on you. Thanks, Ben. We'll take you there as soon as things have wrapped up here. We'll try and get some reaction from the rooms and bring it to you at some stage anyway. But we'll take you to most of the second half of Essendon Port Adelaide at Docklands. Earlier, Richmond beat Hawthorn by 61 points. The Tigers are into the finals this year. They cannot miss. It's going to come down now for between the Bulldogs and Carlton for that final spot in the top 8. So that's all still to be worked out as well, approaching the final round of the season next week. Nathan Burke, Alicia Eva, your experts on Grandstand AFL. This is just beyond that sweet spot the Magpies love to attack from, that sort of 3-goal mark. They're 23 points down. No Jordan Ngoe. Ginnivan's been subbed out. Are there a few more twists and turns left in this game yet?
Well, I think there are some twists and turns because they have hung in there. They kicked multiple goals or 2 goals in a row for the first time for the game. Dacos has really give them a great spark through the middle. Not only does he get his hands on the footy, but he actually uses it and somebody ends up with it every time that he's got it, which is great. Swans, do they think, you know what, we've done enough? You know, we just keep going the way that we're going. It'd be interesting to see what their mindset is. That they're going to put the foot down and try and blow them away, put the game beyond doubt, or are they going to, you know what, be happy with a 4-goal win and just go a little bit defensive? So what tactics the Swans employ this quarter will be very interesting to see. But for the Magpies, they've got nothing to lose. They're playing finals. Why not just have a crack, roll the dice, get the ball through the middle of the ground, you know, get the ball in quickly, as quick as you can, try to isolate the Swans defenders, don't allow them to work together, and who knows, get a couple of ugly goals. We'll then see what happens, Alicia.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the run and carry, as you can probably tell in that third quarter, and I think that's what Collingwood need to do. They need to move the ball with a little bit of chaos and get their runners onto the footy, because what it does is it doesn't allow McCartan to set up behind the ball. So if that ball's coming in slowly, long and with a bit of height, they're too easily chopping it out. If it's coming in quick, fast, low, and from unpredictable places, it's very, very hard to defend. So Collingwood certainly need to get on top here at centre bounce. And I think if they kick the first goal, game on.
Couple of texts quickly. 0437 774 774. Mike didn't like the fact that we didn't take the last few bars of Up There Kazali. Well, Mike, the good news is we're approaching September. You'll hear that song plenty of times coming shortly. But we're taking a bit more of the colour of the occasion here with the Sydney Swans old boys, and mate Neil Cordy was downstairs. Stan from Melbourne, thank you for your text, and Ron on the SMS as well. A couple of numbers, Garby, to three-quarter time.
Luke Parker, 21 disposals. Mills has 19. Rowbottom, 18 and 8 tackles. Dacos, that's Josh, leads the way for Collingwood with 19 disposals. Pendlebury and Howe with 18.
Sydney by 23 points, waiting for a clearance. The Pies do win it away. Crisp tumbles it inside forward 50. Too deep it was for Johnson. Slapped away in space. Florent out to meet it. Goulden now provides support on the half-back flank, and now Fox turns it up the line. Hickey competes through the air with Josh Dacos. There'll be a free kick here for a shove, and it will go the way of the Swans and Tom Hickey. I'll read out those texts when I get a moment, but plenty of action here, and this game's still on the line. Swans work their way forward of halfway. Reid in the contest with Quainer. He copped a nudge from behind as well, so in fact it will go the way of Buddy Franklin. On that left boot, 70 out, skids it inside the arc now, looking for Heaney, but he finds the chest of Braden Maynard.
Pies have got to get going early in this last quarter. Sorry, Berkey.
No, I was going to say, Lance's last 2 touches of the footy, he's turned the ball over, and one ended in a goal. Will this one be the same?
Clever kick from Maynard. Finds Myercheck, and now Callum Brown, the sub, in the middle of the SCG. Spots up Elliott on the lead. He chose not to mark it, instead to palm it down to McCreary. The kick off the ground from Rampy is out of bounds on the full, so the Pies will win it back. Elliott slow to get to his feet, but it was a weird attempt at that mark on the lead from Elliott.
If he had tried to mark it, it could have potentially been a front-on contact free kick, but he tapped the ball.
Noble has it anyway. 70 out from the Pies goal. Sends it in deep. Cameron's there. Well spoiled by Hickey. Down to Fox, and now Tom McCartan with the high ball. Outside defensive 50. Mills couldn't mark. Callum Brown. Did Ryan Clark go into the back of him? Play on's the call. Rampy's there. His kick is smothered. Rowbottom throws it on the boot. It'll bounce once over the boundary line and over for a boundary throw-in. Swans leading by 23 points. They clear defensive 50 after being under pressure early in this last quarter.
Umpires, by the way, today, Brett Roseberry, Brendan Hosking and Nathan Williamson. For those wondering. Early in this final term, Swans still by 23. Both rucks missed it. Bounced away from Warner and also his teammate Rowbottom. Rowbottom goes to gather it now. Tumbles it back up the line. Trapped here by Nick Dacos. Goes to turn Heaney inside out. Now thumps it back towards half forward. And it's a strong grab taken by Mills in the contest with McCreary.
I reckon you see Mills playing most of this quarter just across that section of the ground, just sort of defensive half of centre.
Heaney was outnumbered through the air. Wins it to ground though. Reid to Warner. Dummies. Now goes the fend on Quainer. Kicks up over his shoulder inside 50. Jeremy Howe can spill it and run it out of bounds for a throw-in. 45 around from the Sydney goal at Paddington end.
Even one of the best marks to ever play the game can drop a sitter.
Swans by 23 points. Boundary throw-in just inside 50 for them. Left half forward. Hickey and Cameron side by side. Falls away of Rowbottom. Snaps towards goal. Can he cap off a brilliant display with a major? James Rowbottom. What a sensational game he's had. He's kicked it from just inside 50. The quick time snap. Swans out to a 29-point lead.
Wow. What a snap. That was, 49 metres out?
Yep.
I'm keen to see this replay because it looks like he was free by himself at the back of that stoppage, and when it's anywhere within scoring distance, you'd be hoping your mids and your defenders are all over the spare players. So, wow, what a snap though.
What a game he's had, James Rowbottom, hey, Berkey?
He does all the tough stuff. And he's one of those blokes that surprises you at the end or during the game when you look at the stats. You go, oh, he's had that many. Oh, he's done that, because he doesn't get the ball out in space. He doesn't run and carry and bounce it and hit guys on the chest. He just does all the tough stuff, and he sneaks up on you. Certainly sneaks up on the opposition. He snuck up on them then and kicked the goal from 50 metres out on a snap.
29 points the Sydney Swans lead. Back in the middle. Comes to that man Rowbottom. Goes the fend on Darcy Cameron. Brings the football away. And now can clear via a kick. Howe in the contest with Clark. Dropped it. Quainer mops up here in defence for the Pies. Shares it with Hoskin Elliott. The hand pass. A little no-looker out the back, and it goes out of bounds for a throw-in.
So Rowbottom, 22 disposals, 13 of those contested, 8 tackles, 7 clearances, 6 inside 50s, and now a fantastic goal to go with it.
He shrugged off a guy 30 kilograms heavier than him.
5 go on final term. Swans by 29 points. Back in it comes. Josh Dacos slides it on Parker. And the umpire says, give it to me for a ball up.
29 points the Swans lead by. Ball up on the outer side. Collingwood's 11-game winning streak looking like it will be extinguished. Bouncing ball to centre half forward. Hoskin Elliott, who has the nose strapped up. He's been Off the ground a couple of times with the blood rule, wins the free kick at centre half forward.
Stan says, glad they found a place for Mason Cox. I feel he's playing a better game thanks to our new coaching for the Pies.
Magpies need a quick goal. Side bottom's free in the pocket. Hoskin Elliott found him. He had his arms chopped by Warner, did steal side bottom. Warner had his back turned to the football, so side bottom will kick from just inside 50 on a 45-degree angle. This will test him every step of the way, this distance. Steele side bottom, two-time best and fairest winner at the Magpies, All-Australian in 2018. 12 disposals to his name, needs to kick a big goal for the Pies here. Gets onto it. It's across the face, off hands and over for a boundary throw-in next to the behind post for Collingwood, who trail by 29 points here at the SCG. Here's Brett Sprigg on Grandstand AFL.
Plenty of fans in the building. We'll get a crowd for you shortly. Sellout a few days ago. Home side leads by 29. Back in it comes Hickey and Cameron. Dumped down there was Parker. Football comes loose, and again they dive in from all angles. Umpire wants it to be wrestled clear. Mills can gather. His kick is a turnover straight down the throat of Nick Dacos. So Dacos is 35 out. An angle better than 45 degrees to the right-hand side. They need 5 goals, the Pies.
Yeah, need to make them pay every single mistake that the Swans make, like that one. Mills just didn't get the ball far enough or wide enough, and they need to make them pay. Cannot afford to miss this if they're going to win this game.
They've only kicked 6 goals for the game. They need 5 to overrun this Sydney lead. Runs around the man on the mark, does Nick Dacos, and he's straight up to the right-hand side for a minor score. Collingwood 6-6-42, trailing Sydney 10-10-70. Margin 28 the home side's way, 7 go on final term.
There was no need to run around to his right then. He had the distance in him, and he had to just run in straight.
Tumbling kick from Jake Lloyd. Out to right half back. Hayward couldn't mark, so the Pies win it back. They guide it up to Jack Crisp. Handball into the corridor. Dacos, the quick one to Callum Brown. Inside 50 now, Collingwood. Cameron has to pick it up at his boots. Does so cleanly, but he's well tackled and the ball spills free. Hayward, and now Ryan Clark throws it on the boot to clear trouble for Sydney. Only as far as Darcy Moore, though, in the middle of the ground. Puts the Pies back into attack. Off hands down there of Ash Johnson. Now Carmichael. Rampy went into his back. We'll have a boundary throw in, though, just inside 50 for Collingwood, down to Glenn Lauder on the boundary.
Garby, 44,659 is the second biggest home and away crowd ever at the SCG. So when they said sell out, they weren't far away. And the Swans fans are starting to get excited here heading towards September.
That is huge. 44,659. Thank you, Glenn. That's second behind the 2017 final against Essendon. So, nice crowd, nice buzz around the place as the Swans go forward as well. Goulden pushed off the kick, trying to find Franklin on the half volley. Wrapped up down there by Nathan Murphy. Then they pile in, and the umpire will ball up between wing and half forward. Sydney's attacking end.
Well, they're not going to die wondering here, the Magpies. They are outnumbering at contests around the ground at the moment, so the work rate's certainly still there.
Voice of Alicia Eva on Grandstand AFL, the Giants captain. Swans work their way forward through Hickey. Down at the drop, Maynard beats Goulden to it. Takes on Florent as well, but Paddy McCartan can mop up. His kick was smothered. Skids away from side bottom. Out goes Warner now for the Swans. He can slip the tackle. Now it slips Maynard's tackle as well. Tumbles it back towards half forward. Noble has some room to move through. Trap the footy and now come back up the line for Nick Dacos, who spills the grab under pressure. Bianco's hand pass away. Slapped away here again by the Swans, by McDonald. Blakey traps the footy in space on the wing. 70 from goal, closes here for Franklin on the entry. Couldn't quite finish it off. Callum Brown's hand pass picked off. Clark tries to provide support. Howe now to Murphy. The Pies defenders can rebound. It's marked by Hoskin Elliott on the flank.
Collingwood just hanging on. They need a goal desperately. Hoskin Elliott's kick into a dangerous area is well blocked there by Rampy. Wins it back for Sydney. McInerney gets a handball free on the wing on the outer side. Florence there, scrapping away with Jack Crisp. It's locked in, and Crisp is caught holding the ball. Swans win it back on the outer side. Good tackle by Florent.
Hoskin Elliott just went the wrong option there. I thought he went to the one-on-one ahead of the ball, but he had Jeremy Howe and I don't know who the other one was, open in the middle, and they would have been off to the races.
Ollie Florent, super consistent season for him. Kicks it deep inside 50. Mason Cox does well to take a defensive mark. Pops it over the top for Maynard. Handball quick to Josh Dacos, who bursts away from the pack. He finds Hoskin Elliott at half forward, but he dropped an easy mark under pressure from Robbie Fox. Should have done better though, Hoskin Elliott. Fox's kick though is turned over to Crisp. He is a man inside 50, free on his own in Elliott. Falls over his head. Myercheck can gather and snap, but no, great tackle. Superb tackle by Dana Rampy. Myercheck was free on goal, ready to kick one for the Magpies, and Rampy with a last-ditch effort knocked him off the football, and now the Swans can go down the wing.
Well, that's the game.
Yeah.
Right there. They needed that one to go to. Rampy saved any comeback there, I think.
The crowd knows it too. Hence the lift in cheering. Kick from Oldham goes up the wing here for Darcy Moore. So intercepted by the Magpies. They can go again as Nick Dacos cops some contact from Errol Goulden. Free kick Collingwood. Hand pass laid off here to Maynard. Has a bit of room to move to the middle of the SCG. Off hands, down the forward line now. Swans defenders mop up. Hand pass comes from Stevens to Mills. He can thump it beyond defensive 50. McDonald competes with Cox, but the big American takes the mark on the wing.
Handball inside to Howe. Howe, it's an ugly effort inside 50. Josh Dacos tries to gather it. Well done by Mills, though, to wrestle it off him. Handball to left half, backling for Hayward. Nick Dacos is there. The Swans win it back, though, through Hayward. Handball inboard to Clark. Missed its mark. Mills, though, gathers. Josh Dacos wins it back for the Pies at right half forward. Spins away from trouble. On his left, he finds side bottom in the middle of the ground. Pies will go inside 50 again. Looking for the lead of Elliott is side bottom, and he finds him. Nice jump from Elliott. Marks on his chest. And the Pies need to kick this one desperately. Elliott will have an effort from just inside 50, almost directly in front.
Just in the replay of that Rampy tackle again, was Myercheck pretty much running into just before he got to the point post, close to the goal line, and Rampy out of nowhere pushed him off the kick and saved the day.
What a day for Dane Rampy. Kicked his first goal since 2016 in the first quarter. And then in the last quarter, a goal-saving tackle. But can Jamie Elliott bring the margin back to 22 points for the Pies? It's not going to get all the way there. Johnson works his way to the front of the pack. Manages to bring it to ground. Swans have numbers back, though. Well done by Ollie Florent to burst away from a couple of tackles deep in defence and hit up Paddy McCartan. The Swans fans are loving this from the home side.
All 44,000 of them, plus change. Stevens inside defensive 50 for the Swans. Thumps it up the line now. Players converge on the wing. At the drop, Heaney. The squib kick through traffic. Now for Chad Warner. Lays off the hand pass. Back to Callum Mills. On the entry. Deep inside 50. Getting back there. Murphy in defence. Heaney kept chasing. Slaps it out the back here for Lance Franklin, who can slam the footy to his boot.
Wow.
And squeeze it through for a goal. That is Harlem Globetrotters stuff.
Wow.
Isaac Heaney saw Franklin was coming in behind him, tapped it back over his shoulder, and in one fell swoop, one motion, one hand, Lance Franklin dropped the ball to his boot and chucked it through for his third goal of the afternoon. Swans now by 34. Party time at the SCG. Sydney 11-10-76, Collingwood 6-6-42.
They're such a great duo, those two. And Heaney knew if he took the ball and tried to kick it himself, he probably would have been buried into the ground, or probably was after he tapped it anyway. But just the awareness that Franklin was coming in behind him as we look at the replay now. Oh, what a goal.
They're closing on 100 goals between the two of them, or what they have, 87?
I reckon we're there, but
this game started.
48 now for Franklin and 44 in the year for Heaney, so we're not quite there.
Well, they play the Saints next week, so could quite easily get there.
In the box seat for second spot, the Swans.
Swans by 34 points. Crisp is tackled inside the middle of the ground. Spills free. Hoskin Elliott picks it up at centre half forward, but Sydney win it back. High ball, well marked by Quainer. Two massive moments for Sydney. Rampy's goal-saving tackle, and then the beautiful tap from Heaney down to Franklin to extend the lead to 34 points. Big leap inside 50, though, for Collingwood. Mason Cox is there, just tries to soccer it to Jack Crisp. Tom McCartan, though, wins it back. It's the handball to Blakey. Sends it to the outer wing. It's the hands of Nathan Murphy. Heaney's there. So is Hayward. Magpies win it back. Callum Brown Spins around a tackle of Clark. Handball inboard to Pendlebury. He'll go laterally inside the centre square for John Noble.
Loads up to go inside 50 here for the Magpies. Running start. Blakey takes the intercept for the Swans. So the question now is percentage, because one of Melbourne or Brisbane will win next week, unless it's a draw, of course, Friday night at the Gabba. And the Swans have to keep their percentage ahead of either of those teams. And, of course, they've got the Saints next week, as you mentioned, Berkey. So if they do that, they will lock up second spot Sydney with a home qualifying final. Who'd have thought? 6 straight wins with this one today, as Hayward takes a towering mark on the outer side.
The Sydney Swans, who were so inconsistent in the first part of the season, have hit their straps when it matters most. 6 wins in a row looks a certainty from here, and second spot in the ladder will be theirs. A week out from the finals. They chip it around across half back. Here's Jake Lloyd as the Sydney chant goes around the SCG. Lloyd goes short. Swans happy to control the football now. He finds McInerney on the logo on the outer side wing. Pies back in numbers, trying to stop the bleeding. McInerney just waltzes the ball up and now kicks it into the pocket. McDonald's there, as is Reid. Quainer for the Magpies knocks it up the boundary line. We'll have a boundary throw in though just inside, attacking 50 for the Swans, who lead by 34 points. 16 and a half minutes gone in the last quarter. Here's Nathan Burke and Alicia Eva on Grandstand AFL.
This is one of the best defensive efforts I've seen from a team all year. To keep the Magpies to just 6 goals, 6 at this point of the game has been outstanding.
All thrown back in. Parker for the Swans, tumbles it back inside 50. Franklin desperately beats Jeremy Howe, and he runs out of space here in the right forward pocket.
He actually just bounced that like a basketball then, Franklin. He didn't have possession of it, he just tried to bounce back up to him. Wow. I mean, Berkey, you talk about the best defensive effort. I mean, where does it start? Is it in the midfield? Where do you see it?
Yeah, I think the Swans are all over the ground. Even their small forwards are really good, pushing up. I've never seen a team transition from offense to defense as well as what they do.
They play this ground so well on their home deck, the SCG. Hand pass here for the Magpies. Crisp off half forward, goes inside 50. Tries to find the marking target. Darcy Moore playing up forward. Paddy McCartan wins it away in defence and can slow things down with his pass by foot to McDonald.
Florent did well back there. He's had an excellent game for Sydney in what's been a very consistent season for Ollie Florent. 65th consecutive game today. Now Robbie Fox has it. Sends it up the outer wing. Strong mark by Chad Warner. This dynamic young Swan marking strongly overhead in front of Callum Brown. Possession number 21 coming up for him. Mills and Rowbottom and Parker have been excellent, but Warner's always amongst it. Chips it short to Callum Mills. He guides it to half forward. Sam Reid leaps and marks in front of Quainer. It's party time now for Sydney. Reid plays on quickly, looking for Heaney. He couldn't mark. Falls to Hayward though at the back of the pack. Keeps it in play. Heaney had a swipe at it with his leg and it's gone out of bounds on the full as a result. Pies have it in the back pocket, trailing by 34 points.
Comes back to the outer wing. On its point, it sits up for Jake Lloyd, who can find the salvation at the boundary line for another throw-in. So 6 in a row for the Swans and 7 of their past 8. Heading into round 23 against the Saints next week. As I described for you earlier, the equation for them: keep their percentage healthy ahead of Melbourne and Brisbane and lock up second spot in a home qualifying final. Who would have thought? John Longmire's men going back there again so soon. Pendlebury back inside now for Lipinski. Shares a hand pass out wide. McCreary, 52 from goal, has a flying shot. It's on its way. Looks pretty good. A little too far. It was tugged to the left for a minor score. Magpies 6-7, 43. Sydney 11-10, 76. Margin 33. We're approaching time on here in the final term on Grandstand AFL.
What a dirty day it's been for the Pies star forwards, Elliott and Myercheck. Elliott 6 disposals, Myercheck just the 5. 1 goal for Myercheck. Elliott hasn't troubled the scorers at all. The ball comes out to left half back for Sydney. Of course, they lost Jordan Ngoe before the game with injury. Collingwood. Taylor Adams is already out. Jack Ginnivan went down with a hamstring injury. So they needed Myercheck and Elliott to stand up, but they've been quietened today.
Let's go to Docklands around the grounds. Essendon, Port Adelaide, Ben Cameron.
Yeah, it's just gone half-time in this fixture, Spriggy. Power by 51 points. They've kicked the last 8 goals of the match, 7 goals to zip in the second term. They lead by 51 at the half.
Swans by 33 here. Back up the line it comes. Maynard competes with Heaney. Slapped out the back here for Nick Dacos. Can he make something of it? In goes brother Josh. He was dumped in the Heaney tackle. In front of the old grandstands here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It comes loose now for Warner. Beats Pendlebury for pace. Closes from 50 here, Chad Warner. It's just going the wrong side of the left-hand goal post for a minor score. 11-11-77 the Swans. Collingwood 6-7-43. Some breaking news, by the way, on the AFLW front that Essendon Hawthorn round 1 showdown has been officially moved to Docklands. So that was always, that was the public campaign, wasn't it? 2 expansion sides, and that's been officially confirmed this afternoon.
There we go. Twitter doing its job.
Florent with the contested mark on the outer side. He went short to Robbie Fox, and now Dana Rampy. Swans with the game on their terms. Rampy deep into the pocket. Off the hands of Jeremy Howe. Papley is wrapped up by 4 Magpies. Ball up just inside 50. Swans leading by 34 points. Magpies 11-game winning streak will end here at the SCG. Here's Hickey. Kick smothered. Carmichael picks it up. Lipinski. Handball over the top for Pendlebury. Feigns one way. Gets it back on his left. Kick up the wing. Lloyd has to track it back. McCreary beats him to the football. Well done, though, by Lloyd with the second effort. Ball goes out for a boundary throw-in just in front of the wing for the Magpies on the outer side, who trail by 34 points.
I think we do need to acknowledge the job. I think it's Lloyd, the job he's done on Elliott today. And also McCartan and Robbie Fox. Just the work on the Collingwood key forwards today has been outstanding.
Parker still provides pressure on Pendlebury. Carmichael tries hard for the Magpies. So too Nick Dacos. Ryan Clark can squeeze the kick away only as far as Trent Bianco, who was a late in for Jordan Ngoe earlier. Magpies through Josh Dacos. Go inside 50. Clamour of bodies down there. Myercheck beaten to it. Trapped by Hoskin Elliott in the pocket. Great desperate smother by Tom McCartan. Footy comes loose. Back to Myercheck. Hoskin Elliott tries again with a snap. Back to the corridor. And Blakey can thwart it via a fist. Just out for a throw-in left-hand side of the goals. Randwick end. Swans by 34 points here. 22 and a half travelled final term at the SCG.
They're such an athletic defence too, Sydney. They cover the ground, in the air, on the deck. They just can do everything.
The voice of Nathan Burke on Grandstand AFL as Luke Parker tries to clear defensive 50. Ball goes up in the air. Papley gets hands on it for the Swans. Gets away from the pack. Ryan Clark is well tackled by Nick Dacos. Paddles it back. Looking for Parker. And Papley. Bianco with the tackle on Papley. Boundary throw in outer side. Left half forward for the Magpies. Could this be framed, do you think, Nathan, Alicia, as the loss the Magpies needed to have maybe leading up to the finals? Or is that drawing a long bow?
Well,
it's always one of those pre-finals cliches, isn't it? As you point out, Garvey, but we'll just let the play go here. Lloyd comes up the line now. Bianco takes a chest mark on the outer side.
Yeah, it depends how mentally fragile or tough they are. And they are a pretty young group.
I don't think they're particularly fragile, put it that way. No. Myercheck run down. 25 out directly in front. He was tackled and the umpire will ball it up.
Yeah, they're a fairly young group still. They haven't got a lot of veterans besides Sidebottom and Pendlebury. So young people tend to be just sort of get on with this and get on with the next week.
I think we've heard the last of Craig McRae's Magpies. Don't worry about that. Warner out to Stevens. And now Jake Lloyd. He's run down from behind by Josh Dacos. Good desperation late in the game. Football comes loose. Left half forward for the Pies. McCreary tackles Warner. He's dispossessed. Josh Dacos gets it back. Goes a big barrel from 60 out. And it's missing to the left-hand side for a minor score.
And, you know, they are missing some key players today. I think, you know, when we talk about De Goey and what he offers from a clearance perspective, but of course as a forward, you know, they are missing a few today. So, yeah, I'm with you, Spriggy. I don't think we've seen the last of these Magpies just yet.
One thing's for sure, though, their momentum, this momentum wave we've been speaking about, has been stopped by the Swans. Maynard wins it, left half forward, sends Collingwood back into attack. Robbie Fox is there with Myercheck, and they've blanketed Myercheck all afternoon, have Sydney. Only 6 disposals, 1 goal for him. Can't get into the game at all. Sydney lead by 33 points. Time ticking down now in the last quarter. Boundary throw-in. Here's Hickey and Cameron. Elliott's there, wrapped up well by Dane Rampy. Lipinski is tackled by Warner, the 2 number ones. Dane Rampy, what a game he's had. Kicked his first goal in 6 years in the first quarter, then a massive tackle laid on to stop what would have been a Myercheck goal, which would have given Collingwood a pulse. Swans co-captain, still in excellent form. Lloyd picks it up off that. Ball up inside, attacking 50 for Collingwood. And now Hayward taps it to himself, and then over the head of side bottom. Show pony stuff from Will Hayward, but it's effective. His kick, though, bounces off Ryan Clark. Pendlebury gathers it over the head of Carmichael. Swans have numbers back inside defensive 50. McCartan to Reid. Now they turn it over. A chance for Nick Dacos to kick one for Collingwood, and he does so, the youngster. It's elementary, but the margin is back to 27 points in favour of the Swans.
He's just a class act, Nick Dacos, and I think I'm just looking at his numbers today. He's had the 19, kicked the 1 goal, but he's just class, whether you play him across half-back or up forward like he's played a little bit today. That's why this young Collingwood side just doesn't go away, and I know that the result isn't going to go their way today, but their young talent coming through. I mean, Ash Johnson is quite a threat as well in the forward line. When they get all those cogs ticking in motion, they're really, really hard to stop.
Not long left here. Margin 27. Great call on commentary today, team. Wrote this thing on a cold and went afternoon at Myrtleford, Victoria. That's where Jack Crisp is from. Thank you, Kevin. Hi, team. Enjoying the call. I knew Sydney was the dark horse of the year. I got sidetracked by our Pies wins, says Jan from Victoria. Don't worry, Jan. As I think we've agreed upon. I mean, 11 straight doesn't happen by accident. So the Pies will be thereabouts. They are least likely of those teams to finish second because of their poor percentage. But the Swans in the box seat. Melbourne faces Brisbane at the Gabba on Friday night to start round 23.
Darcy Cameron has been in 3 different zones before this ball's been bounced, and it's ended up in a result free kick for Sydney Swans.
Hickey can send it wide for Papley on the outer side. And he's content just to chip it around ever so slightly back to his co-captain Callum Mills.
When you talk about, sides that are going to contend for the premiership, where do you see Sydney, Berkey? I mean, Melbourne, they've had knocks on their forward line. Brisbane have had knocks on how they defend and I guess the assertiveness of their back line. Sydney seem pretty complete.
They do, and what I love about Sydney is their lower guys, Florent, Fox, McInerney, Hayward, Clark, they're all contributing at a high level, and that's what you need if you're going to be a contender.
The co-captain in Callum Mills is leading the way, though. His handball is blocked by Elliott. Boundary throw-in just inside 50 for the Magpies. Mills, 28 disposals. Warner, 25. Parker is 25 as well. Pendlebury and Dacos both at 25 for the Magpies.
Yeah, their stars are playing good footy, but they're being ably supported. They're not being carried by any one player or any small group of players. It's a real good team effort, and I think Geelong are very similar.
Pendlebury makes the hand pass to Quainer. Kick smothered by Clark, trickles back out to Hickey, tumbles it back down the line here. It's marked by Callum Brown, who is subbed on for Jack Ginnivan. And well, Collingwood's dream run had to end sometime. They lose no fans, but the Swans put themselves firmly in the premiership picture. 6 wins in a row, and they seize for now second spot. Sydney by 27. Goal kickers for the winners. Lance Franklin finished with 3, a couple each for Heaney and Papley. Singles to Hayward, Rampy, Rowbottom and Errol Goulden. While for the Pies, all individuals, Ash Johnson, Josh Dacos, Nick Dacos, Brodie Myercheck, Jack Ginnivan, who was subbed out at half-time with a hamstring, Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox. Sydney by 13 points at quarter time, by 15 at the half, 23 at the final change. Final margin 27 points here at the SCG.
Cheer the red and the white.
27-point winners, and for now they have second spot on the AFL ladder. We'll take you to the end of, or the second half of Essendon Port Adelaide very shortly at Docklands. In the meantime, the thoughts of our experts on Grandstand AFL, Nathan Burke and Alicia Eva.
Well, for mine, I think the class of the Sydney Swans, just all across the ground, forwards, mids, backs, just outshone the Collingwood Magpies today. And I think, there were some really valiant performances from the likes of Josh Dacos, who we got, Pendlebury, of course. I thought he stood up all day. But there just weren't enough contributors across the ground for Collingwood. And I really also liked John Noble's game. I thought he tried to kickstart the run and carry game, which tried to spark a bit of light for the Pies, but Sydney were just too sharp across the ground. Isaac Heaney started the game really well. They had multiple contributors across the midfield in terms of who accumulated their numbers. And that back line, I know we spoke really highly, or I did a number of times, about the two brothers down there. But of course, Robbie Fox, who else joined in? Cal Mills across half back. It was just a really complete performance by the Swans.
Yeah, I think to win a grand final, you can't have any sort of weak areas that you need to hide, because they will be exposed in finals football. And I'm looking at the Swans closely today, and their back line with the McCartans, Rampy, Lloyd, Blakey, no matter what happens in a congested finals game where the delivery to the forwards always gets scrappier. You don't get the time and space through the middle. And so if you're going to kick the ball scrappily into that Swans defensive area, Swans players are going to win it more often than not, because they read the ball so well coming in. The only way to beat them is to isolate them and really pinpoint you forward. And in finals, that doesn't really happen that often. So they've got that set up beautifully. Up front, they've got multiple avenues. They've got some tools down there. They've got some medium players who can also chip in with some marks. And they've got Papley and Hayward and these guys who are smalls. And their midfielders get forward and kick goals as well. I think Chad Warner's been number 4 on their goal, or number 5 on their goal kicking list. So Swans, for me, they've got what they need. If they can finish with a big win next week against the Saints and get at that top 2 spot and play most of their finals here at the SCG, they'll go a long way into September.
So their resume looks like this. You think about the teams they've beaten. They've beaten Melbourne at the MCG. They've beaten Freo over in Perth. They've beaten Geelong as well, and beat the Pies, who began the round in second, and such as the vagaries of the way the ladder is right now, the Pies have slipped to 5th for the time being. But as I say, it had to end sometime, 11 straight, and just fell short at key times today at the SCG. There'll be a presentation downstairs for the Lockett Coventry Trophy. This is played for by, of course, the Swans and the Pies to celebrate those 2 great goal kickers, Tony Lockett, former teammate of yours at the Saints, Nathan Burke, and of course Gordon Coventry at the Magpies. So there'll be a little presentation of that. We've got Glenn Lauder in the rooms. We'll try and bring you some reaction later on post-game, post-Essendon Port Adelaide. And by the way, thanks to Ben Cameron for his updates right across the day. I believe, just having a quick look at the score there, still half-time, Port Adelaide leads the Bombers by 51 points. But Luke Parker just down there addressing the home fans. 7 of their past 8 wins, the Swans, and 6 in a row. So Alicia asked the question earlier as far as what their best quality is. It's their movement by foot. They take the game on. They play this ground so well. But where do you put them in the premiership conversation?
Playing games here a long way, and then once you get to that MCG, and they've already had a win there against Melbourne, which will do them a world of good confidence-wise. So look, they're right up there, because who else is the other standout? Geelong, they're 2 games clear at the moment with a massive percentage, but we've seen they're beatable. I've seen Freo beat them, I've seen Sydney beat them, so I think they're right up there.
Give us your 3-2-1 shortly. I'll go through a few stats to get us there. Callum Mills, 29 touches across the game, 13 contested, 5 inside 50s, 9 marks, 7 tackles, 5 clearances. A really complete effort from Callum Mills today. Chad Warner, 25 touches, so too Luke Parker. And we mentioned James Robinson had 24 disposals, 13 contested, 8 tackles, 7 clearances for him, and a goal to boot. Meanwhile, for the Pies, Scott Pendlebury, 26 disposals, 15 contested to lead. In fact, Hickey had more by virtue of being a ruckman. But Pendlebury led all comers for contested possession around the ground. Josh Dacos had it 25 times, 13 contested, 7 inside 50, 7 clearances. Jeremy Howe down back, 20 touches, 12 and 8, his count, 7 marks down back and important ones as well. Just couldn't get it done, the Pies in the end. And John Noble, who you mentioned, Alicia, had a pretty well-rounded game as well. Let's get your 3-2-1, Berkey. How do they fall in the Footballer of the Year?
Quite a few Sydney players could have featured in this, but I've given 1 to Rowbottom. I thought his inside work was outstanding. I've given 2 to Paddy McCartan right from the early part of the day. He really just rebounded everything and set the scene for that Swans defence. And I've given, maybe controversially, but Callum Mills 3 votes. I just thought he was a forequarter. He puts himself in the right spot where he needs to at the vital times. If Collingwood is starting to come ahead, he puts himself in the right spot. So Mills 3, McCartan 2, that's Paddy, and Rowbottom 1.
Any arguments there, Alicia?
None at all. I particularly about Cal Mills, I thought, when Collingwood got a bit of a sniff, he just got back to winning the contested ball and showed great composure, great leadership.
Tagari, the late out today. Jack Ginnivan subbed out at half-time with a hamstring injury, so that's another concern going forward for the Pies, that dynamic first-year player. Next up, the Pies have Carlton at the MCG. That's the Sunday 3 o'clock game, same time slot as today, and that could be a huge game with Carlton and the Bulldogs set to decide that last spot in the 8 after Richmond won earlier over Hawthorn by 61 points. The Tigers have punched their ticket through to the finals this year, and so it'll come down to Carlton and the Bulldogs next Sunday. Both sides play on Sunday. The Swans are away against St Kilda at Docklands in the very last game of the season, Sunday 4:40 bounce. Isaac Heaney being cheered off after his 150th AFL game. Great game from him as well. The Swans 27-point winners here. Thank you, Berkey.
Thank you, Spriggy. Thank you, Alicia. Lovely to work with you both.
Good luck in round 1 to both of you, okay? Bulldogs, Giants. Giants beat them yesterday by a point in the practice match. Thank you, Alicia, as always.
No, it's been a pleasure. Great call. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks, Berkey.
Thanks
yes, you will.
To Glenn Lauder. Thanks to our tech, Tegan Nichols, and to Phil helping out as well. To Craig Davis back in the studio. And to you, most importantly, for your company as well. Off the Docklands, Essendon, Port Adelaide, Andrew Mays, Joel Peterson, Karen Peterson, Chris Johnson and Lauren Borden. Your commentary team as we get back underway from halftime there.